Should be going live on YouTube. All right, here we go. I think we're started. We're started, I'm pretty sure. All right, what's up? It's AFO again. Changed the attire a little bit after that 4.5 hour stream with Noah, but we're back with a recap. Noah had to go to bed, and my boy Adam wanted to hop on and do a quick draft recap of just what went on in the first round, and kind of what our expert thoughts are, I guess if you want to call it that, on what happened. So, Adam, what would you think of? You're the quarterback guru. How would you think of the first, I guess, 3 picks? Just go one by one, I guess.
Well, it was fairly simple. The draft started at pick 3. Obviously, we knew that Trevor Lawrence was the first overall pick for probably since he committed to Clemson. He was going to be the first overall pick. Pretty much anything. Whenever you think of a prototypical quarterback prospect, you think of Trevor Lawrence. Besides his long hair, nobody thinks of quarterbacks as having long hair. But Trevor Lawrence measured at 6'5" and 5/8, nearly 3/8 away of being a 6'6", 215-pound quarterback. It's got everything. People talk about the intangibles, and when the people talk about intangibles, they mean they have no idea what they're talking about. They just know it when they see it.
Mm-hmm.
But Trevor Lawrence, by far, best quarterback in the class, most pro-ready quarterback. There's no competition in Jacksonville. Trevor will start day one. As much as I love Minshew, Trevor just brings a whole new thing, and it's easy first overall pick. And Zach Wilson at 2 was kind of the same thing. The Jets absolutely loved Zach Wilson. We've known it for a long time. It's kind of like how the Memphis Grizzlies were when John Morant was coming out. Pretty much everybody knew that the Grizzlies wanted John Morant.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how Zach Wilson is with the Jets. I mean, went from being a turnover machine his sophomore year to completely flipping the script at BYU and being ridiculous. And I think he threw 36 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, which is insane. People talk about the Mahomes type throws he makes. I don't know if he'll be able to make them in the NFL. It's quite a bit harder to do that. But you talk about Sam Darnold and you talk about Zach Wilson. I just think with a new coach and a new offensive philosophy, I just think that they need to go with their guy. And the Jets are going to be running a similar offense. I mean, literally their offensive coordinator is the brother of Matt LaFleur of my Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But pretty much Zach Wilson could probably make any throw that Mike LaFleur is wanting him to make, and gives Robert Saleh it eases a little bit of tension, just kind of letting him run what his defense runs, and has faith in Mike LaFleur to do what they want to do there. And it's no surprise that Trevor and Zach went first and second overall.
Mm-hmm.
Not really much to talk about since the prospects or the draft analysis have probably beaten that horse so many times. But where I think it gets interesting is Trey Lance at 3 for San Fran. Makes perfect sense for me. You got a perfect bridge quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the bridge quarterback has become a little bit more prominent nowadays than previous years, because if you take a quarterback in the top 5 picks of the draft 10 years ago, doesn't matter who you have at quarterback, unless he's a Hall of Famer, that they're going to start day one. You pick him that high for a reason. And Trey Lance is the type of guy, you have great mobility, you have great arm talent. Guy threw a 63-yard bomb. And they don't really know what that is. I mean, literally the man just stood both feet on the ground. Hi, Jasper. I'm going to chill out. Guy said flat-footed and just, all arm through 63 yards. absolutely, insane arm talent, has great mobility, showcased that at North Dakota State for 18 games or so he played. Just gives him a good project, and I think if they tune him right, which Kyle Shanahan will, I think he'll be the quarterback of the 49ers for a while, a long time. Honestly, didn't surprise me. I was really thinking Justin Fields at 3, just for the fact that the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks for that pick. There was no way they were going to take Mac Jones, because Mac Jones could have been there at 12 where they originally were at the first place. So if they really wanted Mac Jones, they would have stayed put and ended up getting Mac Jones because he fell to 15. And, I just think it was either Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I was really set on Fields. Felt he was a little bit more pro-ready. But Trey Lance, definitely not a problem with Trey Lance at all. So, first 3 picks. I was pretty surprised by Lance's pick going that high. I kind of thought he was going to go a little bit lower, maybe to the Panthers, or not the Panthers as much since they traded for Sam Darnold. I was looking really for Denver or somebody to trade up and grab him, somebody who already had quarterback in place, who could be looking for a quarterback in the next couple of years. Yeah, I'm not surprised by the 49ers taking him there at all.
I got you. I agree. Jasper playing with his little toy. I see. That's awesome. But
Yeah.
I agree with Trevor Lawrence. That was main pick number 1 right there. Pretty much everyone knew that he was going to get picked by the Jaguars, and he has a good system around him, especially coming later in the round. We'll talk about. He does have James Robinson. He does have DJ Chark, and Laviska Shenault's a pretty good, well-rounded receiver as well. And they ended up getting Travis Etienne later in the round, and that's a great pickup. It was kind of baffling at the time, but it's a good pickup because they know each other and all that. So he's got a good system around him. Urban Meyer's always had great offenses, but but that wasn't a surprise. Zach Wilson, that wasn't a surprise either for me. I always had him and Justin Fields as like 2A and 2B behind Trevor Lawrence, obviously. I had Wilson probably a little higher than Fields just because of his intangibles, and I guess I kind of got carried away in terms of that throw he made on his pro day where he was rolling out left and threw it like 60, or it looked like it was 60 yards down the field. I don't know how far it was, but it was a nice touch throw. It was perfect on the money and just threw it crazy. I don't know. And plus, I've known him since he played his sophomore year at Tennessee. That year he didn't do real good, but I witnessed some, I guess, good intangibles in that game where he would roll out of the pocket and throw just these great balls over. Like if Tennessee had him cut in the pocket, he'd be able to find a way out or find some time to throw the ball. That game was so long ago, and I want to forget all about it because Tennessee should have won that game. But I've known about Zach Wilson for a little bit longer, and so I guess I was a little biased in terms of my ranking of him over Justin Fields. But yeah, the 3rd pick with Trey Lance, leading into the draft, you were hearing Lance or Mac Jones, and everyone was getting baffled, that they were thinking, why would you pick Mac Jones with the 3rd overall pick when he's not, like you were saying, he could have been there at 12 originally before you made that trade. Was it with Miami, right?
Yeah, it was with Miami. Miami had the Texans pick, and they traded that pick. Yeah, traded with the 49ers. 3 first round picks. Going back to that Zach Wilson throw, that was just a show-off throw. Can we all admit that? That was just a show-off throw. You know why it's a show-off throw? Because everybody else afterwards did it too. Justin Fields did it. Well, let's begin here. Aaron Rodgers is the first one who ever really made those throws famous.
Exactly.
Rolling to his left, throwing it right. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, what? No. Aaron Rodgers making that throw. But, yeah, that was a show-off throw completely. Like, you want to show what you can do to NFL scouts, that's what that was. Let me test my arm talent a little bit. I got a little something for you. That's kind of how it was. And I mean, it worked. Got you second overall, made you a lot of money. So can't blame him there.
Yeah, maybe he didn't put you on a great team. Well, obviously you're the second overall pick, but the Jets are a dumpster fire organization as of now, at least. Maybe Robert Saleh could change things around, but he's got decent talent around him there. Corey Davis obviously went there. Chris Herndon's a pretty, I guess, manageable tight end. If you want to.
Yeah, he's average. You got Jamison Crowder as well.
And Crowder's a good little slot receiver. He's done good with, Darnold. I never thought Darnold was that bad until, we'll see how good he really was when he plays for Carolina after Carolina just traded Teddy to the Broncos. That's also a big reason why I think later in the draft, me and Noah were talking about, the Broncos might pick Justin Fields here. We were thinking that, but that was never – I totally forgot about the whole Teddy Bridgewater thing where he had just gotten traded, and he'll be backing up Drew Lock, and it's exactly it reminds me of the same situation that Mariota and Tannehill were in. Mariota being a young QB, just like Drew Lock, and Teddy Bridgewater getting traded for, what was it, for a 6th-round pick?
Yeah, nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much nothing.
Unless you pick Tom Brady with that pick.
Exactly. So it was like Tannehill was traded for a 4th-round pick, and it reminds me of that situation. Oh, excuse me. Reminds me of that situation so much where Teddy could come in and maybe not do as good as Tannehill because, Denver don't have a Derrick Henry. You can't set up the play action. Can't set up the play action like that. With Melvin Gordon or.
Well, 31 other teams don't have a Derrick Henry.
That's true as well. Unless Najee does something. There goes Jasper. Unless Najee does something in Pittsburgh, but so yeah, so it didn't really. What was I going on to? Oh, the Trey Lance thing, but yeah, Trey Lance thing caught me off guard a little bit. Mac Jones wasn't going to get picked there, but I guess I wasn't super surprised with Trey Lance. That was my prediction in the going throughout the draft during the stream, and while I was watching it, I predicted it. Now the 4th pick, Atlanta. There was lots of rumors that we're going to trade out of that, or even pick, Justin Fields. So I honestly thought they'd pick Justin Fields, but I guess what they're banking on is the short-term future, depending on what happens with Julio, obviously, because he might get traded. But I think they're banking on the future.
Just the stream crasher right now.
Exactly. With Kyle Pitts. They picked Kyle Pitts from Florida, obviously the top tight end by a long shot. He can play like a receiver. Perfect comparison was Darren Waller. A great receiving threat. He's going to be a killer on Madden in the coming years for sure, and in real life too.
Absolutely.
So Matt Ryan, he's got an array of weapons now. He's got, Todd Gurley, even though he's aging, you still have him and Ito Smith in the backfield. They could work on the running back situation better, but when you have Julio, when you have Calvin Ridley, and even someone like a Russell Gage or something like that, or you had Hayden Hurst as well. I always thought he was pretty decent in terms of receiving. Not the best, obviously, but he was manageable. But now you have Kyle Pitts, who can line up in the he can line up in the slot. He can line up outside. As a mismatch. If you have a safety on him, he's too big for the safety. If you have a linebacker, he's too fast, and vice versa. He's just he's a matchup nightmare. And so I think, it's a solid pick. You can't go wrong with the 4th pick with either, whether it be Fields or Pitts, which is what I was thinking was Fields. He would have been in the same situation as I think San Francisco would do with Trey Lance. He would just sit behind Matt Ryan for the next year or maybe 2 and learn from him, which would be valuable. Matt Ryan's still at the top of his game, in my opinion. And so, yeah, that's a solid pick, in my opinion. Now, the 5th pick. Or maybe I should. Did you want to talk about that pick almost?
Yeah, I was going to say about Kyle Pitts at 4. It wasn't a shocker to me at all. The biggest rumor with that was that the Patriots were going to trade up from 15 to 4 to take Fields. I was not thinking Justin Fields was going to go at 4, just due to the fact of Arthur Smith coming in and you already have a franchise quarterback in place. I mean, sure, Matt Ryan is, I believe, 36 years old. I want to say 35. But they want to reinvest in Matt Ryan. They want to put good pieces around him, something the Packers will never do, apparently.
Hey, what is saying? Sorry to interrupt. He's calling me on Discord for some reason. What the hell is this? Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Skip for now.
Go ahead, answer it.
Okay, whatever. I did answer it. I'm doing something goofy. No, he said something in the chat. Noah, I know you're watching this, man. I don't know what happened. I pressed call, but I thought you were heading to bed, man. Thought you were heading to bed.
Yeah, you liar.
We'll see if he calls me again. But I think he was wanting to maybe get in on this discussion. I don't know.
I gotcha.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, Jasper. Jeez, bud, you gotta chill out. Kyle Pitts at 4 didn't surprise me at all. Matt Ryan loves his tight ends. If you think whenever he was younger, he had Tony Gonzalez on the end of his career. Had Austin Hooper for a while as well. Absolutely loves his tight ends. And if you know what Arthur Smith did with Jonnu Smith, with his 1 year in Tennessee, pretty much made Jonnu a household name. And got him a big contract in New England, and even ran Jonnu at some halfback as well. Actually, do I think Kyle Pitts is going to be a halfback? No, absolutely not. But Jasper, can you? You should put in the title of this. Round 1 recap featuring Jasper.
Featuring Jasper and Adam.
Steal the show. Kyle Pitts, in my opinion, is probably one of the best players in the draft. That's not a quarterback. I was really high on Kyle Pitts. Just like you said, absolute matchup nightmare. Kind of reminds me of Jimmy Graham, if a little bit lighter Jimmy Graham. Mm-hmm. But it didn't surprise me at all that he was taken at 4. It was either Atlanta was going to take Kyle Pitts or was going to trade out of there. That was about the only thing I could think of. But yeah, I'm not surprised by Kyle Pitts at 4 at all.
I got you. But yeah, Noah, yeah, you are about to go to bed, like you said, that I would stop to drop in for a sec. Well, yeah, thanks for dropping in for a little bit, man. We're just simply going over, and we had an unexpected guest, obviously, coming in for a little bit. He's not talking, but he sure is having some fun, I'll say that. But
he's under my bed right now, so.
Okay, well, let's keep him there. Yeah. But Noah, yeah, I want to say again before you head off, just thank you for allowing me on the stream and everything. That was fun. We'll think about doing some stuff like this soon in the future, especially over the summer when we all have more time, or we both have more time and everything like that. Maybe we can actually get that podcast going.
Podcast after going. Like 3 years of
3 years.
Saying that we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to be consistent, man. That's all. But yeah,
it really
before
is.
you head out, man, thank you for all that. And if you want to keep watching, keep it on. I keep that viewership, man. While you go to sleep.
There you go. Get that algorithm right.
Exactly. Hey, my things hit 26 views. That's the last time I checked my YouTube stream. So doing pretty well. We'll see how it goes. But
there you go.
With the fifth pick was an interesting situation that they were put in within the last few weeks. You had been seeing the mock drafts slowly switch to one certain player, and that certain player was Ja'Marr Chase. And it's not a baffling pick because obviously you're in a win-win. You either get the best receiver in the draft or the best lineman or in the draft, and do you go best player available? If you're in the Bengals situation, do you go best player available or do you go a position of need? And in my opinion, they should have gone position of need with Penei Sewell because you can't, especially after what happened with Joe Burrow, where his knee popped out and then it popped back in on its own, and it's like you got to have protection for him first off, foremost, because he's got weapons around him. He had John Ross didn't do anything really, but he had John Ross and AJ Green and Tyler Boyd and Had all the and Joe Mixon and
T. Higgins.
Giovanni Bernard and T. Higgins as well. So he had all those weapons, but he still got hurt, and the team still wasn't that good. Now, granted, the defense wasn't amazing either, but you had a solid lineup around him, but what you didn't have was the O-line, and that's eventually what got him hurt. And Ja'Marr Chase ain't a bad pick. AJ Green went to the Cardinals, and John Ross went to the Giants. I'm pretty sure. I think, right?
John Ross, I have no clue, to be honest.
I think he went to the Giants, if I remember right. But, oh shoot, I forgot my train of thought. But yeah, I think you just go with Penei Sewell there, in my opinion. Top prospect, he can play guard or tackle. He's got quick feet. He's a mauler in the run game. You couldn't go wrong with that pick, and I think they made a mistake in that sense. But obviously Ja'Marr Chase is going to put up numbers. It all depends on what they do in the second round, because someone like a Tevin Jenkins is still on the board, and there's still some decent O-linemen still on the board that you can choose in tomorrow, or well, I guess today because it's past 12. But you can choose one of those linemen right there, and maybe it can, depending on how they play their rookie year, maybe it'll all suffice in the end, and you'll get the next A.J. Brown, as they were comparing Ja'Marr Chase to. Who knows? But that's my opinions on that pick. But, yeah.
And it can go one of two ways. It can either go Ja'Marr Chase at 5 and someone like Tevin Jenkins at 5 in the second round, and the Bengals look like a genius after having a great draft last year. Or you get Ja'Marr Chase and you miss out on a good tackle prospect, a nice pass-blocking tackle prospect like Tevin Jenkins, and now you look stupid. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. I believe Penei Sewell was the better choice. I mean, the Cincinnati Tigers, Bengals, decided to go with their hometown guy. No, I'm just playing. But they decided to go the LSU route. The football team is known as the Washington Crimson Tide, so I think the Bengals make a even bigger transition to the Cincinnati Tigers, basically. But it's I don't hate the pick, but you're absolutely right. I mean, how is Joe Burrow going to go and make all these throws to all these weapons if he's on his back half the time? Mm-hmm. You got to solidify the O-line if you want to have a productive offense. You can't have no O-line and have a productive offense. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's just plain and simple. Ja'Marr Chase, like you said, will put up numbers. Phenomenal receiver, the first receiver off the board for a reason, and he'll be fine. It really depends on what the Bengals are going to do with their second round pick. Which, going by this draft, Tevin Jenkins might be there, and if they're there, if he's there, they're dumb. I'm sorry, It's just you got to take an offensive line with your second round pick if you're going to be the Bengals, in my opinion. The defense needs work. It absolutely needs work. But your quarterback is your franchise, especially somebody like Joe Burrow.
I agree.
That's just my opinion on it.
I agree with that. The Bengals, they got a long way to go. Like you said, maybe they did get a Trey Hendrickson over in free agency, possibly could help boost the pass rush with Sam Hubbard and even like a Geno Atkins, even though he's getting a little older. The defense will still be a little shaky. But, if you have an offense that puts up numbers, that could somewhat help the defense if they can stop someone one time. So, it's a good pick either way, but in terms of like what you're looking at and positional needs for your franchise, it's not the best pick in my opinion, but you can't go wrong either way. You got the number one receiver, you were going to get him, or the number one offensive tackle, but we'll all see. Like we were saying, we'll see what happens when day 2 comes around and see who they pick at the beginning of the top of the second round. But moving on to the next pick. Solid pick, it was either Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, in my opinion. That's what I was guessing. And they got Jalen Waddle. Obviously a game breaker. He's like a joystick in Madden. He's like a Madden, like you're playing with him in Madden. He's fast, deep threat. Not on the skill level of Tyreek Hill, obviously, yet, No one is at this point, but he could be like that if he gets his touches and whatnot. And he's played with Tua before, and so it adds that deep threat for Miami. And Miami, they got to build around Tua now because Fitzpatrick's over in, I think he's on the football team now, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's on the football team. So it's Tua's team now. Tua's offense, Tua's team. And maybe they could use another running back in the later rounds, which you don't pick a running back unless they're generational in the top of the first round like that. So solid pick with Jalen Waddle. He'll pair well with Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker and even Jakeem Grant. Yep. Jakeem Grant could be that other slot receiver or even deep threat. And you could toy around with Jalen Waddle as well, where you could use him as a what would you call it? I guess a coy, like a decoy on the offense where you could act like
field
he's doing
stretcher.
something. Yeah. Act like he's doing something, put Jakeem Grant on a route, something like that. Who knows? But it's a solid pick. You couldn't go wrong with this pick with either him or Devontae Smith. I don't know. You can't really say too much else. Solid pick. He's got that camaraderie with Tua, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Surprised the hell out of me. Whenever the Bengals didn't pick Penei Sewell, I thought Miami was going to scoop in or take him. It's kind of the same situation, not as horrible as the Bengals, but the Dolphins need to fix that O-line the best they can. And it's very unlikely that the top tackle prospect falls out of the top 5. And it would have literally made the Laramie Tunsil trade look like genius. Because you trade – so Laramie Tunsil fell to the 12th pick, which is where Miami took him.
Mm-hmm.
You trade him to the Texans for the 4 or 5 picks, whatever you got for him. You turn one of those picks into the top tackle in the draft. It would just be absolute genius on the Dolphins' part. How they could pass that up, I don't know. Honestly, I would have taken him. But I was surprised that Waddle went that high. I thought Devontae Smith was going to go higher than Waddle was.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just a little bit more looking at the ankle injury he had in the championship game. But at the same time, ankles are either they'll heal up in a couple weeks or they'll take 6 months to heal. It depends on how bad you tweak it. But at the same time, it makes sense. You have Devontae Parker, who's a big receiver, and you have Jalen Waddle, who will stretch the field, not the biggest guy around, nowhere close to it, and has that speed that's not teachable. You can't teach speed. I think it pairs really well with Jakeem Grant because you can have one on one side of the field and one on the other, or make it even more dangerous and have them both on the same side of the field. Because I can just see it now. If you have them on both, opposite sides of the field, you have Jalen Waddle going on a shallow cross, getting everybody's attention, and then Jakeem Grant just goes on the post over top, and it's like brings that safety in. That's a touchdown all the way, or vice versa. Probably Jalen Waddle on the shallow cross because if everybody gets everybody's attention. But I think with that offense, I don't know if Chan Gailey is still there or not. He was last year, but basically his offense passing scheme wise is death by 1,000 paper cuts, which I'm an air raid guy, so we like to throw short to guys who can go score, which is absolutely what Jalen Waddle is. Him, Jakeem Grant, and then you throw it deep to Devontae Parker, who can just go up and grab it. Mike Gesicki the same way. I just think it adds another dimension to the offense. It's a solid pick. Don't get me wrong. I just wouldn't have taken the tackle. That's just me. Probably because I'm a Packers fan. The Lions ended up taking the best tackle in the draft. That's beside the point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I do agree with you in the sense that they were in the same situation as the Bengals, because the Dolphins have a solid defense, which that defense almost led them to the playoffs last year with a rookie QB and a middling offense. And it's a good point to bring up, that you brought up about They could have gotten Sewell there, protect, Tua's, well, I guess it's not his blind side if he's on the left, his front side, but, it's a win-win just like the Bengals. The Bengals may have had a higher need for the tackle. The Dolphins are more well-rounded and well-coached with Brian Flores, I think, so.
It's true.
It's a solid pick either way. I think the Dolphins can build, in the second round. Now they did have another pick later in the round. What was their other pick? Let me go on Bleacher Report.
They picked Jalen Phillips with that pick at 18. Yeah, 18.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was. But, you could have picked a tackle there. Tevin Jenkins still on the board, and I think Darisaw or someone was on the board if I remember right.
Darisaw was still on the board.
Yeah, Darisaw was still on the board.
Yeah, the Vikings picked him.
Interesting. But, either way, Dolphins, that's too good. Jalen Phillips is arguably the top edge rusher. So you got the top edge rusher. Could have got the top tackle. It's fine. Jalen Waddle's top 3. If not, if you want to be a little goober about it, you can definitely say he's top 5 receiver. And, ain't nobody as fast as him. So, in this draft class at least. So,
and I will say this, I was going to say that as a Packers fan, I would much rather the Lions take a tackle than a receiver. So, I think if the Dolphins take Sewell, then the Lions would have taken Jalen Waddle. So, I guess I'm okay with it. But if I was the Dolphins, I would have taken the tackle.
That's true. Which leads, that's good to lead into the next
Moving on
pick.
to the tackle.
Yeah, leading on to the next pick, which is Penei Sewell. On to the Lions, Packers nemesis. It's a good pick. It's a good pick. Now, I actually don't know about Taylor Decker. Is he still on the Lions?
Yeah.
Is he still playing?
He'll probably move to right tackle.
Okay, gotcha. Because I knew he was at left. Because I remember he was in the same. Oh shoot. I think he was in the same draft class as either Conklin. I think it was Conklin. He was in the same draft class as him or Lawan. I can't remember. But I remember him going to the Lions. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty solid
It was
pick.
Conklin.
It was Conklin? Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense. So, that's a good pick. You got to protect Jared Goff. Jared Goff's not the most athletic guy out there. It's a good pick in order to get.
Yeah.
Who's he throwing to? He's throwing to T.J. Hawkinson. He's throwing to Marvin Jones. Obviously, Galladay left. I can't even think of their number 2 now.
No, Marvin Jones is on the Jaguars now.
Oh, shoot, you're right. Oh, my goodness. Who do they have then? Oh, my goodness. That's wild.
Nobody.
They're in rebuilding mode. Oh, my goodness. They have DeAndre Swift and Hawkinson. That's all I can think about. So they are in rebuilding mode. The Dolphins.
They have Tyrell Williams. They signed Khalif Raymond.
He's
Rashard
good.
Perriman. That's the top 3 guys.
Oh, my Lord. That's not a solid lineup right there. Khalif Raymond, don't get me wrong. I love the man.
Not good at all.
Titans player. He's a great deep threat, but he was, too inconsistent for my liking. Didn't show up last year, except for a few games. He was a great deep threat, but, the Lions are in rebuilding mode. So, they couldn't do any. Any pick they made here, I think, would have been right. Most picks, obviously, would have been right, and they made the right choice. You got to build around the O-line, the trenches. You have to do that. So that was it. That's really all I have to say on that. Is they're building in the trenches, and it's a solid pick to protect Goff and build that bridge to maybe not even a new QB, but to building the bridge to maybe next season and getting more solid. I guess skill pieces and even more solid defense to build around Jeffrey Okudah or even a Gerard Davis. Maybe he's not the best at middle linebacker, but definitely build out around Jeff Okudah.
Yeah, it's an easy pick. It's an easy pick to discuss. You got the best offensive lineman in the draft. It's not the most beautiful pick, but if Penei Sewell adapts well to the NFL, he'll be here. He'll be a Lion for a long time. Unless the Lions screw it up and make him retire early like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders did. But, we'll see. It's plain and simple. Man's a beast, all-around athlete. Plays at Oregon. Oregon doesn't run the same offense that they used to, but they're still spread.
Mm-hmm.
They may not do as much hurry up, but the Pac-12 is notorious for hurry up, so they probably do. So he did opt out of last season, so he's a year off from football. But he still ran great, had a good 40 time, did good on the bench. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. But I will say this about Jared Goff: he does have something that Matthew Stafford doesn't have in his career, which is a Super Bowl appearance. So there's
a playoff
that.
win too,
But I think I would much rather have Matthew Stafford than I would Jared Goff, in my opinion.
I think Stafford actually hasn't even won a playoff game before, has he?
But he won against the Cowboys, I believe.
I don't think he has.
I believe.
The only time I remember him going to the playoffs was...
I think he's won one playoff game. It was against the Cubs.
I think you're right. But
maybe. I don't know.
He's on a better team now. The Rams are going to be someone to watch this year, possibly, because Stafford's a great QB. He was just stuck on a crap organization, essentially. Even though he did have Galladay and Marvin Jones and some decent pieces around him, just the team overall and the coaching didn't really help. So I think he's been put in a better situation with Sean McVay and an offensive mind that he'll definitely adapt to. Matt Stafford will adapt to it pretty well. Got a solid running back rotation down there with Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they have a 3 running back committee. Then you got Robert Woods and even Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee and Cooper Kupp. You don't have Josh Reynolds anymore, but it's a solid offense to build around Matthew Stafford, and even a solid defense, obviously, with Donald and Jalen Ramsey and I'm thinking of who's the safety. I'm thinking of he's pretty decent as well, but I don't know. That's the Rams, but. But,
you got to think about it this way. I mean, you're in LA, like you're in California. Smile, you're enjoying yourself. He's with his buddy Clayton Kershaw now. Fun fact: if you didn't know, Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford grew up together. They were childhood best friends. So
interesting.
They're back together. So that should be interesting.
I was just looking at my live chat, and I saw that. I was peeking at 5 viewers just a few minutes ago. That was pretty wild.
There you go.
It's back down to 3 now, but that's fine. It's fine with me. But that leads us to the next pick, which is honestly, it did surprise me a little bit because I was thinking maybe they would go like a defensive tackle or something like that, or maybe an O-lineman. And they went with J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. And I know Saints fans were a little ticked off at that because his dad, Joe Horn, played for the Saints, and that would have been a great reunion. The Saints have a need at corner outside of Marshawn Lattimore. It's a solid pick. I don't know if it was like the best, not the best pick. I mean, it's a good pick. Maybe their most needed pick, I guess you could say. It was more of a BPA. Just put the best player available to add someone. And I guess if you look at it in the context of what division they're in, when you're going against Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, all that stuff, you're going to need more corners because they already have James Bradberry, who held his own pretty well last season. Is James Bradberry on the Giants or on the Panthers?
Yeah, he was on the Giants last year.
Oh, my goodness. He was on the Panthers, though. He did good.
He was on the Panthers at one point, but he left for the Giants. Not this offseason, but the season before that.
Dang. Okay, I'm an idiot. But if you're thinking of it like that, you do need to have defense in order to be able to stop the Bucs and the Falcons and the Saints. You're in an offensive division, and that's what you're going to need. And so it was an amazing pick. It caught me off guard at first, but. Looking back at it and thinking about the division they have around him, I think it's a solid pick. He's arguably the best corner in this draft class. And if you watch Brett Coleman, he's got some of the best analysis. I always mention him because he's got solid analysis and he's not biased and doesn't have an ego to him, I guess. And he thinks he's one of the best corners since Jalen Ramsey, athletically and talent-wise. And, I'm going to agree with that, and I think he was the top corner in this class. And solid pick by the Panthers there to be able to stop Mike Evans or Michael Thomas or Julio. Solid pick.
I mean, it's one of those things, and you hit it right on the nail that, most of these teams that they're going to be playing in the NFC South are pass-heavy teams. It's going to switch up for the Falcons because they're going to go more towards a 49ers, Rams type West Coast zone run type of offense where, you're going to see a lot of inside zone, outside zone, counter, stuff like that. But outside of that, Bruce Arians' offense is a pass-heavy offense. The Saints will be a pass-heavy offense when they want to be. I don't know how that'll be with Jameis Winston as the quarterback. They might have to lean on Kamara a little bit. But, you have an outstanding athlete already on your team with Dante Jackson, who can fly. And J.C. Horn's right there with him. Brett Coleman put it really well. I mean, ideally in the last 25 years, J.C. Horn goes up at the top, most athletic cornerbacks that he's ever seen. He's a type of guy, being a son of a receiver and you're playing corner, like, what that receiver is going to do before he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have a Hall of Famer as your father who played receiver for a long time. And if you just look at his tape, like he just reads it all the way. And plus, on top of that, it didn't really surprise me that Carolina picked him because, I mean, he went to South Carolina. Dude's literally in their backyard. Sure, the Carolina Panthers are in North Carolina, but literally he's a state away. The locals will tell you about it because, I mean, I guarantee you there's some South Carolina fans in North Carolina. I mean, that's just how it is. Aaron's getting his push-ups in. No, but J.C. Horn doesn't. I mean, I say that it doesn't surprise me. It surprised a lot of people. I didn't think J.C. Horn was going to go that high. I thought it was going to go J.C. Horn at 9, and then the Cowboys were going to take Patrick Surtain at 10. Just moved it up a pick. I think if Justin Fields was picked at 3, and Carolina wanted to dabble a little bit, I could see them taking Trey Lance. But I think J.C. Horn, you can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't go wrong. I mean, number 1 corner in the class. He's there for a reason. Played in the SEC. It's a miss up between Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, and we'll get to Patrick Surtain here in like 3 seconds. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and start off with him. I mean, obviously, when at Alabama, it was considered DBU. I still think it's LSU. That's just me. But Patrick Surtain, to me, it was J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain at like super small margin. Patrick Surtain, he just doesn't get beat deep. Last year did not get beat deep. Barely. I mean, he's a corner. He's going to give up some short stuff, but for the most part, playing, if you see his tape, he barely got beat. I was talking to a guy today, told him the exact same thing. He was like, "Oh, did you see Jamar Chase beat him?" I was like, "I'm talking about last year, but like Jamar Chase is top 5 for a reason, but corners are going to get beat. That's just how it is. It's a pass-heavy league. You're going to get a lot of deep passes. There's a lot of deep threats in the league nowadays. Other than 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, where there wasn't as much. But Vic Fangio gets his, a crazy good corner. Alabama, Nick Saban. Nick Saban obviously is the DB guru as much as, he looks like a nutcracker, but literally. But he obviously knows what he's doing when it comes to DBs. You look at the track record of Alabama in the last 8 years. I mean, literally have produced so many first-round picks, whether it's corner, whether it's safety. They got the defensive backs there for a reason. Guy runs 4.3 speed. He's a press corner, whether you want to be a press zone corner or a press man corner, he's got you. doesn't really matter. They run match quarters with at Alabama, which is ran a whole lot in the NFL. More teams are going to that, especially Vic Fangio, who's doing a lot of split field coverages, which is pretty much split field coverages is basically you play one coverage on one side and another coverage on the other. So it depends. But, Vic Fangio got his guy. That defense is going to look ridiculous with Justin Simmons, who they franchise tag, got Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. Solid guys at linebacker, but the corners are going to look they're getting a good upgrade in there.
Don't forget Kyle.
Kyle, yeah. I was pissed that we didn't get him, but yeah.
Same here.
But, a lot of people thought Devontae Smith here. I wasn't buying it because, you picked Jerry Jeudy last year. You don't really need another receiver on top of that. They got KJ Hamler the same draft too. And, I just don't think there's a spot for Devontae on there right now. Plus, you have the uncertainty at quarterback. It's kind of hard to throw to receivers if you don't know who your quarterback is.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, in terms of Surtain, I agree with you. It's a solid pickup for Vic Fangio and that defense, and with Kyle Fuller and Justin Simmons, and that defense is going to be. It helps when you have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller rushing the quarterback, and then I might be a little biased. A.J. Johnson, Alexander Johnson, however you want to call him, played at Tennessee. I think he's just a pretty solid player in the middle of the field, middle linebacker. He's not the top in the league or anything like that, but when you have Justin Simmons and Kyle Fuller and now Patrick Surtain in the secondary, a great pass rush will be able to get to the quarterback quicker, maybe get some errant throws. And, when you have a guy like Kyle Fuller or Patrick Surtain right there, who excels, Surtain excels in his technique, and he'll be able to stay with the receiver pretty well. And, as you said, he just doesn't get beat deep at all. And if he plays to his strengths like that, he'll be really successful, and this defense will be pretty nasty. And they just got to figure it. The Broncos themselves just got to figure out their offense and their quarterback situation. And another thing too with this pick, it also helps being you're in a division that's on the rise. It's like the NFC South, except these quarterbacks are actually they're younger and they're already on fire, and you'll be having to deal with this for years to come. When it comes to the Chargers and Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and even Mike Williams and an Austin Eckler and then you got the Chiefs, obviously we all know about that, and then if you want to say the Raiders, even the Raiders, if you want to say them, the Henry Ruggs, he didn't do too much last year, and the Raiders are arguably the worst team in the division, but you still got to worry about it. Derek Carr is a serviceable QB. Not the best, he's not the worst, but he has his moments, so you got to be prepared for those moments. So that's another big get up for the Broncos, and being able to stop these teams and then figuring out that quarterback situation. And I think that'll help big time as well. But just real quick, I forgot it's 12:40, so I need to take this pill real quick. So I'm going to do that real quick.
Go for it. Pop that pill. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Anyways, I'll go ahead. While Aaron's doing that, I'll talk a little bit about Devontae Smith. Excuse me. But Devontae Smith at 10 to the Eagles. First things first, I work with a Cowboys fan, and we were watching the draft, and he wanted Surtain so bad. The fact that the Cowboys traded with their division rivals, the Eagles, absolutely shocked me. Because, one of the first things that you do when it comes to trading, you don't trade with your division rival. Me personally, watching the draft for years and years and years, I have never seen a division rival trade their first-round pick to another division rival. I just think it didn't happen. I thought it was common sense. And you knew the Eagles were going to go up and get a receiver. You had to. You get Jalen Hurts, who ironically, played at Alabama, played with Devontae Smith. Which is a point I'm going to bring up a little bit later on. But, Devontae Smith,
kind of surprised he fell this far. A lot of people were hating on Devontae for being 160 pounds. To me, it doesn't matter what size you are, whether you're 5'5" or you're 6'5". I mean, if you can play, you can play. Um, he can absolutely do anything that you want him to do. He has the speed to do it. He has the route running ability to do it. Reminds me a lot of Devontae Adams as far as route running goes. It's kind of funny, Devontae, literally the same first name. But he goes into a new offense. So is it Saccherini is the new head coach there?
I think so.
Yeah. And where did he came from? The Colts, I want to say.
Was it the Colts or the Vikings? Or
I think it was the Colts.
I think it was the Colts as well.
Which is kind of interesting because they fired Doug Peterson, who came from Andy Reid, and they hire one of Frank Reich's guys who came from Doug Peterson, who came from you pretty much replaced Doug Peterson with a Doug Peterson disciple. So that kind of if he did come from the Colts, that just like you basically let go of a head coach to hire the same guy. Whether it's Saccherini, I don't even know if that's how you say his name correctly. But if he brings something different to the table, there you go. But guy's never been a head coach before. Don't really know what to expect out of him. He kind of took it out of blank slate. He didn't even name Jalen Hurts as the starting quarterback until like 2 weeks ago, which is kind of boggled my mind. Like, you just traded Carson Wentz, so is Nate Sudfeld going to be the starting quarterback? No. What? I mean, the man played in a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. Nate Sudfeld played in the Super Bowl. He took a knee, but still played. Devontae Smith, I'm kind of getting off point here, but Devontae Smith will do whatever Saccherini wants him to do. Is reunited with Jalen Hurts, which is actually a really interesting common occurrence in this draft. A lot of teammates are playing with each other nowadays. And we'll go over that a little bit later as it starts to become more prominent. But, great pick by the Eagles. I mean, obviously, I got the Heisman Trophy winner, best receiver in the class, in my opinion, besides Jamar Chase, at 10. 2 receivers afterwards. You got him there as a steal. So that's me. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I agree. They could go along with it. Devontae Smith, whether you wanted to put him as first, the top receiver, or the second best behind Jamar Chase, I had him behind Jamar Chase just in terms of, people pick on his weight, and that's why a lot of people are putting him at 2. I put it just because I think Jamar Chase is, he's more gifted in terms of the size. So I guess it kind of made my opinion it made me a little bit more biased towards Jamar Chase, but size does matter in the NFL as well, and Jamar Chase, I think, has more intangibles and skills around him that made him a little bit better, but that's besides the point. The Eagles desperately needed a receiver because I know Alshon Jeffrey wasn't coming back. Zach Ertz, I don't think he's coming back, or he's in a trade or something like that, I think.
It depends. I mean, I think Zach Ertz was Carson Wentz's guy, and I think it's the same way. There's no trade being done at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was traded.
So, I mean, that's another thing, too. Ertz could get traded. Now, he would have Dallas Goedert, and Miles Sanders is a great young running back. And, you lost Deshaun Jackson as well. Travis Fulgham did pretty decently last year. He was a good little fantasy pickup in fantasy football, and he was killing it last year. But when you have someone, I gave credence to Carson Wentz not last year but the year before, whenever he had all these young receivers. What was the guy's name? Came from Houston. He played quarterback at Houston, and he played receiver on the Eagles.
Oh gosh!
And he was having to throw it to him.
I know who you're talking about.
Was it like Joe Ward
Goodness
or something?
gracious, I can't believe I forgot his name.
It was like Joe Ward or something like that.
Yeah, last name Ward for sure.
shoot, I don't know, man, but
That's
when
gonna
you have,
bother me. But yeah, last name Ward for sure.
yeah, when you have a quarterback
Excuse me.
converted to receiver as one of your top receivers in 2019, and you're still doing good like Wentz was, I gave him credence for that. And then he just fell off a cliff last year, and they got JJ, what was that? Arcega-Whiteside. They got him, and he did not do too well last year, and so you needed a big time playmaker for Jalen Hurts, and in Jalen Hurts, his little amount of time that he was able to start, he did very well in that offense, and almost led you to. I mean, he literally almost led them to the playoffs. I'm pretty sure if they wouldn't have lost that last game to I think it was I almost said the Skins, the football team. I'm pretty sure they lost to the football team that last game, and. If you build, I think Jalen Hurts has potential to be not a top QB in the league, but serviceable enough to where he can lead you. He's a franchise QB, I think. He can be. Maybe not tops of the league, obviously, but he can lead you to the playoffs, especially in the NFC East. They don't call it the NFC least for nothing. It's getting better, but as of now, it's still the NFC least. And he could
Right.
take him to a division crown, so. Solid pick here. Nothing much really else to say. I like Devontae Smith. He proved last season, Heisman Trophy winner. You don't have to be the biggest guy to provide that much of a difference on the field. No one could stop him. Not even Ohio State's corners in the championship. Notre Dame couldn't stop him. LSU's corners couldn't stop him. And yeah, he just proved that. So that's really all I got to say on that. Pretty much agree with what you said. But that leads to the next pick. Justin Fields to the Bears. I think this was a solid pick, even though they do have, was it Andy Dalton? They have Andy Dalton at QB right now.
Red Rifle.
The what you would call the average QB. He is the average QB. Like if you were to pick a 1 through 32, Andy Dalton would be right in the middle. But, he has his ups and downs. He's just a middling QB. He's not going to be a franchise. And the Bears have potential. They did lose Kyle Fuller, and that defense still has Khalil Mack. And the defense itself is still pretty solid with Eddie Jackson and Khalil Mack and
Roquan.
And Roquan Smith. I almost said Kwiatkowski, but he's on the Raiders now. But, it's still a solid team. And Allen Robinson, even though he had a few disputes, I would say, this offseason. So you still have him. Anthony Miller's all right if he don't get traded. He doesn't get traded. David Montgomery, he's not the best running back, but he's pretty serviceable. And the O-line ain't that bad either. And I'm pretty sure Kyle Long, I think he announced he was coming back this season. He's a pretty good guard. He's above average. I think it was Kyle Long who was coming back.
He's playing for the Chiefs, though.
Is he really? Kyle Long?
He's playing for the Chiefs, though. Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot!
Yep.
I don't remember that happening. Maybe I'm thinking of Cody Whitehead.
Expert analysis.
Do what?
Cody Whitehair, yeah, he's a center for them.
Okay.
They also have a really solid right guard that I completely forgot his name, but he's really good.
Okay. It's a good team to build around Justin Fields. Now we can see what they do later in the draft. Obviously, we can say this for a lot of teams, but especially when you're building around a QB, you have to build around your QB. Something my Titans did not want to do, it seemed like, with Mariota, and we didn't play to his strengths. So if the Bears and Matt Nagy, or whatever you want to say, if they can build around Justin Fields, it can be a solid pick. It won't be like Trubisky. This is a better pick than Trubisky. Fields has a couple of years of experience at a high level of play, not just 1 year at North Carolina, and you even got him at a premium too. You sat back and waited for him, or no, they traded up. I'm stupid. Well, you traded up. It reminds me of the situation with the Chiefs.
Traded up from 20 to 11.
Yeah, they traded up for 20 to 11. Now
yeah,
it could have been because they were scared Minnesota was going to get him, or the Patriots were going to get him. But either way, man, it's a solid pickup to trade up for that. It reminds me of, I know the Chiefs, when they got Mahomes, I'm pretty sure they traded up for that, right? Or was that the Texans with Watson? It was one of those two. I can't remember.
No, they traded up for Mahomes.
Okay, that's what that reminds me. Now, I'm not saying Fields will be like Mahomes or just as good, But it's a solid pickup, and I like the pick. And now I know, Adam, you may not like it as much because it's the Bears, obviously, but we can be a little biased with it.
Well, I was ready for the Giants to pick Micah Parsons. I was ready for him to take him. And I'm sitting at work. I'm watching the draft, and see the Giants trade their pick, and I see this flash of orange, and I'm like, oh, it's the Bears. They're going to pick Mac Jones. They're going to pick Mac Jones over Justin Fields. And I was like, watch Mac Jones turn out to be the best quarterback, in Bears franchise history, better than Jay Cutler. But I'm not, as a Packers fan, I'm not thrilled that Justin Fields is going to Chicago. Just because he is not he's not Trubisky. He's not careless with the football. I mean, it depends the way you look at it. You go back to the Indiana game he had last year where he threw 3 interceptions, but that's about the only game where he's had multiple turnovers and it's been a real issue. What I think is going to happen is Andy Dalton's going to play like 4 games, and then they're going to put Justin Fields in. And I can see him going one of 2 ways. Either at week 5, he's going to blow the charts off, end up leading them to a wild card spot, or he's going to struggle and show flashes of what he could be at that number 11 pick. And it may take a couple years, which, I mean, it depends. Depends on the offense. If they just absolutely struggle, Matt Nagy's out of there. And that kind of puts Justin Fields in question, because usually the way coaching works basically is if you're about to get fired, you pick a quarterback so you can stay around for a little bit. But if you're the new coach and you're hired, you want your guy, which is exactly what happened with the Jets. Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, as much as Darnold was young, which he still is, he's younger than Joe Burrow, which is kind of interesting. But beside the point, they want their guy. And I kind of see this as one of those things where Matt Nagy drafted Justin Fields to kind of continue his coaching tenure in Chicago. And it's pretty much just going to be, ultimately, it's going to be up to him whether or not Justin Fields will succeed or not. Because if Justin Fields has 5 offensive coordinators like Marcus Mariota did, then the guy's not going to succeed.
Yep.
But it worries me as a Packers fan, I'll tell you that. I mean, Fields is I thought he was going to go 3rd overall. That's how high I was on Fields. I love Fields. That's a Wisconsin fan saying that about Ohio State quarterback. I think he can be a good player in this league. I just hope it's not for Chicago. As much as I don't want it for Chicago, I could see him succeeding, and I could see him being that final piece that they need. They could be another receiver, like Aaron said, depends on what they do for the rest of the draft. Build up the O-line, add the receiver into the mix, and you're sitting pretty solid. Got a good defense. Depends on if they want to return to that state that they were in when they won the division, Matt Nagy's first year. Just depends on Matt Nagy, in my opinion. That's the X factor for Justin Fields right now. Not whether or not Justin Fields can play or not. It's the fact that if Matt Nagy's going to get him ready to do so. And Ryan Pace as well. Ryan Pace infamously took Mitch Trubisky over Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, who are 2 franchise quarterbacks. But as a Packers fan, I'm not thrilled with seeing Justin Fields in a Bears uniform. But really, pretty much what gave it away that Justin Fields was going to the Bears was I was watching the draft, and it showed the draft room, not the draft room, but Justin Fields' house, and nobody was in it. And then whenever they all came back, I swear I saw somebody in an orange hat. And I was like, they're going to take Justin Fields. So I was hoping he would fall to like the Patriots or like somebody else would come and grab him, but obviously they didn't, which makes me sad. But ultimately, it's a good pick for the Bears. Ugh, as much as I hate to say that, it's a good pick. Fills the need that they need. Obviously, Andy Dalton is not going to be your franchise guy. They miss on Deshaun Watson. They miss on Russell Wilson, who I didn't think was going to go anywhere anyway. But you get your guy in the end. It's a very good pick. If I was the Bears, I would be very happy with Justin Fields as my quarterback.
I think we agree there. I did just get this notification. It was about an hour ago. The Bears GM, Ryan Pace, he said that Dalton is our starter despite trading up for Justin Fields in the draft. So that lends credence to what you were saying, that Dalton would probably play, I think, because I agree with you, he'll probably play the first part of the season or until he just starts sucking, which could be the first game, first or second game, and Andy Dalton's just not that good. We saw that last year with the Cowboys. Cowboys went from a high-scoring offense to a middling offense, and you saw how that affected their team because their defense is absolute dog manure, So, I don't agree with that. I think that Justin Fields should start immediately. But at the same time, depending on how the preseason goes, I think they lessen the preseason to 3 games. We got a 17-game schedule now. Who knows? I think Justin Fields will probably start sooner than later. That's pretty much what I'm going to think on that. So that leads to the next pick, which brings up the Cowboys, like we were just talking about. Micah Parsons, interesting pick. It kind of baffled me. They have 2 inside linebackers already, unless they have something up their sleeve, which I don't know. But they already have a Leighton Vander Esch, who, yes, is injury prone, and then you do have Jalen Smith, but Micah Parsons, he's a solid player, but there's so many other options you could have chose. Even you could have even chose Caleb Farley at this point, even despite the back issues, because they desperately need a corner, and they even need just a DB in general. Because Jordan Lewis he ain't it. Chidobe Awuzie, he's not it. And that's even with a good pass rush, too, with DeMarcus Lawrence on the D-line. And having Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch right there. And you even had Sean Lee, and he just recently retired, though. So that's kind of different. So maybe was it the Sean Lee retirement changed Jerry Jones? Because I'm sure Jerry Jones and his egotistical mind had some say in this decision with Sean Lee retiring. Maybe he was like, oh, we need a backup in Micah Parsons. I mean, it's a good pick because he's a great player, arguably one of the top linebacker prospects in this draft class, but I think you could have gone someone bigger here, whether that be a Caleb Farley or even maybe not a Trevon Moehrig, top safety in this class. It's a little high for a safety, I think, and the safeties in this class ain't too great, but I just think you could have chose someone even a Kwity Paye, you could have chose him, and I wish they would have chose him because who he went to later on, but I don't know. There's not really too much to say. It kind of baffled me, and it still does a little bit, but the Cowboys are going to be the Cowboys, so it's not surprising.
Personally, I thought they were going Caleb Farley all the way. Caleb Farley's more of an off corner. Of course, they hired Dan Quinn, who's going to be the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, who's most famous for the Legion of Boom, Seattle 3 defense. So they're going to be in a lot of single high, a lot of off coverage, which is what Caleb Farley is great at, is off coverage. And even the fact that, they really needed corner really bad. Chidobe Awuzie is not even on the team anymore. He's on the Bengals now.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. And that you're good. They are transitioning to a 4-3. I don't know I think they were a 4-3 beforehand, but I'm not 100%. I think Sean Lee's retirement did affect the way Micah Parsons was picked. My thing with Parsons, though, is he's extremely raw. Extremely raw. He was originally a defensive end, and Penn State moved him to linebacker. And I kind of stole this from Brett Coleman because he pointed this out greatly in his defensive prospect video that's like an hour and 15 minutes long. But Micah Parsons plays linebacker like a defensive end. He absorbs blocks. Great instincts, will definitely get you some tackles for loss, but absorbs blocks way too much. And that may work in college, but when an NFL offensive lineman gets their hands on you, unless you have something up your sleeve, some moves that will, get those hands off of you, you're not going anywhere. Penei Sewell, perfect example. If he gets his hands on you and gets you in that grip in the pads, you're not going away. You're not going anywhere. He's driving you into the ground, period. And I feel like Dan Quinn's going to have to, instill that in him that you got to make the right read and you got to, you have to do, what your instincts tell you besides the fact of absorbing blocks. Caleb Farley, I thought was going to be the pick. He's the next best corner on the board, and a great off-man corner. Great, we'll get on to him when it comes to the Titans, but I thought he was the pick. I thought he was the pick straight up. And, you can't be mad at the Micah Parsons pick. I mean, obviously he's a great talent, tremendous ceiling. I just think he's really raw. So it depends whether or not Dan Quinn's going to develop him. And Dan Quinn's a competitive guy through and through. Doesn't matter what it is, always still competition. So hopefully, that'll turn him into the right way. But I'm not mad about the pick. If I was the Cowboys, probably would have chose Caleb Farley, even with the back issues. I mean, that's what I'm thinking is why they didn't choose him. It's more of the risk factor at 12 rather than 22, which the Titans got him at.
Yes, 22.
22. And we'll get on to that a little bit whenever we get to the Titans. But, I think the risk is the reason why they didn't take him. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That does leads credence to, if he was a defensive end and he was transitioned to a linebacker and he has those tendencies, I wonder if a Dan Quinn will use him in that role maybe a little bit more to start off, just to use him as maybe a gadget player at first on that defense, especially if he's not starting. Maybe that's what they're doing. Who knows how the Cowboys operate, honestly, but I don't know. It's a solid player, but I just think you had better positions a positional.
It was a BPA pick for sure, but
yeah, but that leads to the next pick. Great pick by the Chargers and Rashawn Slater. That's let's see, where's he out of? Northwestern. I was like, what is NU? I was like, oh, Northwestern. But it's a solid pick,
Northwestern, yeah.
Franchise QB, Justin Herbert. You got to keep him upright. Chargers don't have the best O-line in the league for sure. You've got solid weapons around Justin Herbert already, and he's even shown he can elevate the talent around him. And getting someone like Rashawn Slater, who was the next best tackle outside of Penei Sewell, it shows that the Chargers, I think, are heading in the right direction, and it's a good sign, especially being in the AFC West with the Chiefs, that you got to keep firepower with them, and you got to be able to protect your quarterback. And simply put, that's really all you need to do if you're the Chargers. And it's just a great pick overall. You couldn't really go wrong with that unless you just chose someone like the Cowboys, that you're already pretty solid at, So I don't really have much else to say other than, Rashawn Slater protecting Justin Herbert for the next 10, 15 years, however many years Justin Herbert plays or even Rashawn Slater plays. It's a great pick. It's going to keep Justin Herbert upright. Hopefully, you don't want to see anyone get hurt. And maybe they'll challenge the Chiefs now. Who knows? I can't say that immediately, but, it's a solid pick. I love the Rashawn Slater.
And I haven't been able to watch a lot of college football recently just due to work. whenever I've been working. Hopefully that's going to change this coming up season, so I can watch a little bit more college football, a little bit more NFL. Coming into the draft process, I didn't know a whole lot about Rashawn Slater, but I kind of watched a little bit more tape. And if you watch him against Chase Young, Chase Young was consistent, like one of the best players available last year, if not the best player, in the draft. Had a very good tape against Chase Young whenever Northwestern played Ohio State. The game wasn't close, but Sean Slater looked very, very good against Chase Young. And I think that really, boosted his draft stock, because it shows that not only can you handle one of the best players in college football, you can handle one of the best players that's one of the best, generational type Myles Garrett, players like Chase Young that you will see in the NFL. He's got, choppy feet throughout his run blocking. He's played both tackle spots. He can be a right tackle or he can be a left tackle. He's more of a right tackle towards the end of his college career, but can also do both. Has, pretty big hands for an offensive lineman. He's got 10.5-inch hands, which, 10.5 doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you talking big hands. Crazy big hands. And that'll help out really well. He has more strengths than he has weaknesses for sure. And like you were saying, you got to protect Justin Herbert against these edge rushers, whether it's Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Frank Clark, even Chris Jones, but he'll line up inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, his specialty is against bull rush. Like, the guy will literally just plant his feet and will not go anywhere when it comes to bull rushing. And, it's a very solid pick, to put it plain and simple.
Agreed. You can't go wrong with it. Just protecting Herbert, that's the main deal. And I don't think, the Bengals did not make, it just brings me back to the Bengals. They just didn't make the right choice, in my opinion, and they should have chose someone like a Penei Sewell to protect Joe Burrow. But, that's obviously past the point. And I think this will help Herbert, I think. He might just have a better career than Joe Burrow just because of this. Burrow might not be in the right situation. And Herbert's like, he didn't start till, I think he started like 12 or 13 games, and he threw like 20. I think he had the most
30 touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah, most touchdown passes for a rookie in history.
30.
And that's only in 13 games, and it's well deserved that he got Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Which nobody saw him. Nobody thought he was going to do that.
Mm.
Nobody thought he was going to do that. I didn't think he was going to do that.
No, me neither. Me neither.
I wasn't very high on Justin Herbert, in my opinion. Like, I didn't think Justin Herbert was going to be all that great starting out, but man, came out and just absolutely just threw it better than you could think he could. But it's a good pick by a brand new coach. He was actually blanking. I'm blanking on right now. Who is the new
it's
coach?
It's not Anthony Lynn,
Chargers?
obviously.
No. Jeez, why am I blanking?
And we bring up Brett Coleman, man. He said that he thought Herbert was going to be the next Mitch Trubisky.
Brandon Staley.
Do what?
Yeah. Brandon Staley, passing game coordinator for the Ravens, I believe.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
No, let me see. I think so. No, that was the Texans head coach. My bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he came from the Ravens.
Yeah,
he
Brandon
went to the
Staley.
Texans. It's interesting, but it's a solid pick. So the next pick's also an O lineman by the Jets. It's a good pick if you're gonna build around Zach Wilson. And I'm seeing these teams do this, and it makes me mad at the Bengals, I guess, per se, because if you're not going to build around and even the Titans, when we had Mariota, we didn't really build around him. We did build an O-line, but we didn't build any weapons around him, so I guess it's different in that sense, but the Jets picking Elijah Vera Tucker from USC. That's a solid pick. Whether he plays at tackle or guard, I didn't do too much tape watching of like O linemen. Even though I played O lineman in high school ball, and I know the techniques and where you gotta shuffle, you gotta dig your feet in the ground and make sure your hands are inside and all that junk to be able to know, and then keep good feet and good choppy feet, like when you're pass blocking and not get too over leveraged or lean back too far, just anything like that. But I wasn't able to watch any tape on Vera Tucker. But it's a good pick. I mean, he's rated as one of the top O linemen in this class, and whether this is at guard or even at tackle, for someone like Zach Wilson, it's a great sign to know that they're building in front of you, because the trenches matter more so than what you've got around you. And he's got a decent lineup around him currently right now. They still got a ways to go in the draft, or even in free agency if they want to add some more. But I like this pick. Anytime you build around your QB and protect him and build in the trenches, it's not a sexy pick, but it's the right pick. And someone like the Bengals, I think, just made the sexy pick where it's like, oh my gosh, scoring touchdowns and all that. But you gotta protect your QB. You gotta protect the sexy guy first, and not make the sexy pick. That's just my opinion.
Very true.
So, just my opinion.
It's kind of the same thing with. Well, sorry, were you saying something? I apologize.
No. I was joking about the sexy guy being the QB. You know what I'm saying? Stereotype.
Yeah. What you trying to say? No, but it's kind of the same thing with Rashawn Slater as Elijah Vera Tucker. Didn't really watch a whole lot of film. Honestly, wasn't really thinking he was going to go this high. But it makes sense why he did. The guy's a versatile guy. Can play tackle, can play guard. He's athletic as hell. Pardon my French, but he's athletic. Very, very good. Especially when it comes to pulling and trapping, which that West Coast scheme will use trapping and definitely will pull when it comes to counter. If they want to do not to say basic, but if they want to basically do what Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan is doing, insane. And Vera Tucker is great at pulling, he's great at trapping, athletic enough to do that. Also really good on his double teams as well, which they'll do in duo quite often. And just the guy has great reaction. Very good at reacting very quickly. Whenever he gets cross-faced by a blitzer, he's able to recover pretty well. Whether or not that will translate to the NFL, I have no clue. But he will do what Michael LaFleur wants him to do in that scheme. Besides that, I got nothing for you. I just haven't watched film on the guy.
Hey,
I need to. If I'm going to do this, I need to.
Hey,
but,
it's same here, man.
Hey.
I mean, we can just take it honestly as, we're basically just, we're just fans watching and, reacting to the picks. And,
right.
Even though it's not super expert analysis like previously Mike Mayock or a Bucky Brooks or Daniel Jeremiah or, even like a Mel Kiper or Todd McShay or anything like, or even a Brett Coleman. I respect him more so than all those guys. The NFL Network guys actually ain't too bad. The two ESPN guys are kind of goofy, but I think we're doing it for fun. So I mean, I really just look at it in the sense of it being a solid pick for the teams and what the team needs. Watching the tape will help at the same time, but I do trust when they make these rankings that these players that are highly ranked, I'm going to trust, like, if they're in the top 5, they're top of the class. And if a team picks whoever's in the top 5 based on their positional needs, or if it's not their positional need, and it's a best player available, that's how I judge mine and how I react to it. But, yeah, overall, it's a solid pick. So this goes on
They
to.
drafted that.
Oh, go ahead.
They drafted left tackle first round last year. A guy out of Louisville
Mickey
who
Becton.
I can't remember names to save my life. So, it's I can't but you can tell the Jets are trying to build something here with a quarterback and an offensive line to start out in the draft, and we'll see what else they do. But drafted a tackle last year, drafted a guard this year, and a quarterback. I mean, they're trying to build something offensively here.
And it starts.
I think they're making the right picks, in my opinion. They're making the right picks.
Agreed. Starts up front. That's it. And it was Mickey Becton. That was his name.
Yeah.
Or Mackay or whatever you want to call it.
I'm Becton, yeah.
But it's a solid pick. Now this leads to the next pick, which is not really the surprise of the night, but it was the epic pick of the night, I guess you could say, because it's the Patriots. And, it's Bill Belichick showing, I guess his way a little bit. And Mac Jones, it didn't surprise me or really anyone. Right when this pick came up, especially on ESPN, what I was watching, they showed Mac Jones over and over and over, even before this, of like him just sitting in the chair waiting. And they kept showing him, and then they started showing his highlights. And I'm like, yeah, I think the Patriots. And then based off the pre-draft talk, I had a feeling the Patriots would pick right here, pick a QB here. They were rumored to be wanting to trade up for like a Justin Fields possibly, or even a Trey Lance if he fell back that far, which obviously didn't happen. But it's a good pick because Cam Newton's not your future. Cam Newton's past his prime a bit, I would say. So it's a good. You're in a rebuilding year if you're a Patriots fan. I mean, you pretty much were last year. You just got to build a great offense around Mac Jones now. Even though he won't be starting this year, he's going to be groomed. Now, I don't want to say it's like a Drew Bledsoe and a Tom Brady type deal. Tom Brady got thrust into the action because Bledsoe got hurt, and that's what started that. But and then he was a 6th-round pick and pick 199. And he looked ugly in his workouts, and Mac Jones looked ugly after the championship game. Like he had a big old beer belly, essentially. But, I think that's what would happen. As I think Cam Newton, it could be 1, it could be 2 years that Cam Newton starts and Mac Jones will play behind him. But he won't be like a Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham was kind of like, will we start him or will we not? And they never ended up starting him. And Mac Jones, I think, if he's thrust into action, I think he can do pretty decently, pretty well in Josh McDaniels' system. You do have Sony Michel and Damian Harris, and I don't know if Rex Burkhead's still on the team, but you do have
I believe he is.
You do have a good running back core and rotation. And then even a solid O-line up front as well. The guy from Georgia, Isaiah Wynn, he's pretty solid. Who's the guard? Macon, is that his name? Or Mason? Trey Mason, is that his name? No, that's the running back from Auburn.
Yeah. No, wait. Shaq Mason.
Shaq Mason, there you go. Trey Mason's the running back from Auburn, that number 21 guy. But anyways, you have a solid O-line, pretty solid, even though David Andrews had to retire and all that. And
Joe Tooney went to the Chiefs.
Yeah, that too. And then you have N'Keal Harry and Bird. Damiere Byrd. There you go. You have him and
Damiere Byrd.
And the little white guy. I can't remember his name. Lachunski or it's some white guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have the white receiver. Obviously Julian Edelman retired, so that's going to be a big drop off there. But retired. Yeah, he's going to go to the Bucs, right? But he's going to go to the Bucs. That's New England South right there. But if you build around that and you have a pretty semi-solid defense, it's going to take a few years. We've seen the Patriots dominate for so long. This is a good thing that they're down and out right now, and I hope they don't go back to the top for a long time. That's just my opinion. But will Mac Jones be that guy to lead them back to the top? I hope not, but I think he's going to be a solid QB based on what he did last year. He did have all that talent around him in Alabama, but I think he's better than what some people give him credit for. Not number 3 overall talent. He shouldn't have never been in the discussion for number 3. But at 15, that's about right. And I think he went to a solid team with a solid coach. I mean, one of the best coaches of all time, obviously.
The best coach of all time.
And a good offensive mastermind. Yeah, and a good offensive mastermind. So it's a good pick. It's a good pick. You're pretty much building for the future if you're a Patriots fan.
As far as Mac Jones go, well, fun fact. We'll do with a fun fact first. Mac Jones is the highest picked quarterback in Bill Belichick ever. Like, Bill Belichick has never taken a quarterback this high. On top of that, the last quarterback that was taken higher than Mac Jones in Patriots history was Drew Bledsoe at number 1 in 1991. It's interesting because the Patriots needed a quarterback this bad. I think with Mac Jones, you can go back to what the Patriots like to do with their EP offense. Get back to what they like to do. Cam Newton, I like Cam Newton as far as what he's done, but right now you can tell he can't throw like he used to. You can tell in his release, you can see the ball downfield. It just doesn't. He just can't sling it like he wants to.
It's the shoulder.
Mac Jones kind of brings that, not the Brady-esque type deal, but he's a quarterback that can throw it. So basically, it gets Josh McDaniels back into a comfort spot. And I think that this pick was more of a McDaniels pick than it was a Belichick pick. I think, McDaniels has been with Belichick for 20 years plus now. And he's pretty much a second head coach for the Patriots. To me, Mac Jones just makes sense here. Get you a quarterback that can run what you want to do. His Twitter game is funny as hell because he literally added Tom Brady with a picture of Tom Brady's combine photo and then like another one of his photos. Wasn't the championship game photo, but it was another one that just showed his body and was like, I don't know what he said, but like he just added Tom Brady with those 2 photos and like a little caption, and it was pretty funny. But
pretty silly.
Doesn't surprise me here. Literally everybody's been projecting Mac Jones at 15 up until like the 49ers were going to take him at 3. It's ridiculous. If they wanted Mac Jones, they would have just stayed at 12. Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just Mac Jones pretty much can do what McDaniels wants him to do.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good pick, solid pick. Patriots won't be. I don't think they'll do anything too much in these next few years, possibly for the next couple at least years. They're in rebuilding mode, I think, but it's a good pick, a good investment for the future, I think. Especially with the Bills on the rise right now with the young, solid team, and even the Dolphins with the young, solid team, and even maybe possibly the Jets could overtake the Patriots. Well, I wouldn't say overtake the Patriots, but if they build a solid foundation, they can take over the Patriots. But this leads to the next pick, number 16, is Zaven Collins from Tulsa. It was the Cardinals pick. Zaven Collins was one of the top linebacker prospects in this draft class. He's a big dude, big giant, athletic guy. I'm pretty sure he led the nation in tackles this past year, I believe.
I have no clue.
I don't know, but he was just. I just remember hearing about him, and early on, like during the football season, I'm like, man, that's a good dude. And he reminds me of Leighton Vander Esch in a way, with his size, and athleticism, and just being all over the field and a tackling machine, and just being able to line up anywhere on the field. You watch his highlights. He had I think ESPN was showing his highlights. He had 2 or 3 pick sixes. Or it looked like he had 2 or 3 pick sixes while I was streaming and watching, and I was like, man, that's incredible for a guy his size to be able to do that. And it's a good pickup for the Cardinals. They're building on that defense. They're building that team in general. They have on the offense. You got D-Hop, one of the best receivers in the league. D-Hop, A.J. Green, Andy Isabella. You still have Christian Kirk as well. Kyler Murray, obviously. James Conner's there now. I think Kenyon is Kenyon Drake still there as well, or did he move on somewhere?
I think so.
I think he's still there. So that's a solid offense. And then on defense, you add Zaven Collins, with Chandler Jones,
Isaiah Simmons,
and Isaiah Simmons. Yeah, Isaiah, even though he didn't play as much last
J.J.
year.
Watt.
And J.J. Watt and Buda Baker. Can't forget, Buda Baker doesn't have any interception. He doesn't pick the ball off at all, but he's a great tackler. He got paid for a reason, So the Cardinals are building something down there, and I don't know if they're a sleeper team per se, but with Zaven Collins, he could also work around with. I don't know their middle linebackers outside of Hassan Reddick, but I think they switched him to more of a pass rushing role last.
Hassan Reddick's on a new team too.
Do what?
He's on a new team.
Is he? Where'd he go? I knew he was a free agent. But
I want to say the Bills.
Did he really? Holy moly!
Let me check real quick.
I actually had no clue.
Pretty sure.
All I know is that half of his sacks came in like one game.
Yeah, because he had like 5 sacks in the game.
Jesus.
I think they have Devon J. Campbell, but they have Isaiah Simmons playing at linebacker too. Hassan Reddick went to the Panthers actually.
Wow, I actually did not know that. But oh shoot, what happened? Okay, but so I guess he will fill in that middle role, with an Isaiah Simmons. And Isaiah Simmons is fast; he could play safety if he needed to, But it's with that Hassan Reddick, I actually didn't know about that. I don't have the time to really do much of this research and film watching and everything. So with school being in effect, but it's a solid pick based on what I've heard with Hassan Reddick leaving. You need that guy in the middle for the future. You pair him with an Isaiah Simmons or a Buda Baker and stuff like that. And, they did get Malcolm Butler, too. They got Malcolm Butler as well. He's a good, solid veteran corner. Since Pat Peterson, he went to the Vikings, I want to say. He went to the Vikings. Yep. So, you lose that veteran presence, bring him in with not as talented as Pat Peterson, but it's a good solid team they're building down in Arizona. So it's a good pick. Athletically, one of the best linebackers in this class, and it's going to help with the future of that team, which is already looking pretty young in your core of in the core makeup of the team. So,
and obviously with Zaven Collins, I mean, I didn't watch a ton of film on him. Coming from Tulsa, I mean, not the biggest school around. It's probably why he was able to succeed and lead tackles as much as he could because, you're playing, still Division I, still FBS, but, on the lower level. A lot of people were talking about his size. He was a little bit overweight when he came into, I believe he went to the Senior Bowl, I want to say, but either way, came in, was 270 pounds. Coming into that bowl game, or I think it was either medical checkup or something of that matter. 270 at middle linebacker is insanely big, even by like yesteryear's standards. 270 is massive. They were talking about during the draft they were saying I've never seen any linebackers at 270. I was like, well, it's not very uncommon to see a 3-4. Outside linebacker at 270. Pernell McPhee, who played on that Super Bowl Ravens team, was 270, 275. Played for the Bears a little bit later on. He was up there. He was close to 280. But Zaven Collins is way more athletic than Pernell McPhee ever dreamed of being. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's a little bit more athletic than I am. No, I'm not even close. But it makes sense. The only issue I have is Zaven Collins is a very versatile player, and you already have Isaiah Simmons, who's a very, very versatile player. Unless you plan on playing them both in the middle, I could see them moving them around, whether that's Isaiah Simmons in the slot at safety. I don't think he'll go out wide as corner, be a linebacker, stuff like that. Isaiah Simmons can literally play whatever he wants, defensive end, whatever. They get a little creative over there in Arizona, but makes sense. If you told, you could tell me I mean, I honestly couldn't tell you who played middle linebacker for the Cardinals last year. No clue. No idea.
Me neither.
And it's. I feel like it was a pick of need. And they got a good athlete, good player to do it. So, I guess it was a little bit of a BPA, but I also think it's a team need as well. Kind of takes us into the Raiders, who, in true Raider fashion, picked a player that was a little too high than what he was supposed to, with Alex Leatherwood, who I believe on Daniel McShay's board he was like 62nd, which is Todd McShay. There you go.
Yeah.
Daniel Jeremiah, who I was thinking of. Daniel Jeremiah's grade on Alex Leatherwood was he was like 62nd on his board, and he got picked at 17. Whether or not the Raiders are going to turn that into a better pick, I don't know. They select Keelan Farrell at 4 a couple years back when the draft was in Nashville, it hasn't really turned out to be the greatest pick. He definitely hasn't lived up to the 4th overall pick. 17 is a little bit different, still a first round pick, but there's not as much, not as much pressure, I would say. I mean, you're a first round pick. There is pressure there, but you're not top 5. You're not top 2. Not top, he'll start. I think he'll start. Obviously, Mike Mayock has been a draft analysis for, years and years and years and years. So obviously the man does know what he's doing. And John Gruden's been a coach for a long time, so he knows what he needs at what spots in his offense. So Leatherwood played at Alabama, played well at Alabama. Did I think he was a first-round talent? No. Just depends. Depends on what you need. Gruden in his history has been a run-first coach. Whether or not that meets what Leatherwood is as a player, to be 100% honest, I have no clue. I think it was more of a BPA, but at the same time, Tevin Jenkins is sitting right there. They lost Trent Brown, who's going back to New England. I'm confused about this pick, honestly. I have no clue why he was picked this early. Unless they see something I don't see, which is very likely, since I'm doing this from my bedroom.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of baffling, because they do have that need on the O-line with, like you said, Trent Brown leaving, and who was the guy who went to the Cardinals, actually? What was his name? Rodney Hudson? Was it him, the center?
Yes, the center. I forgot about that.
He went to the Cardinals, and that's another piece I forgot to add earlier, talking about the Cardinals and their team, but... so they did have a need on the O-line, but, like you said, you had Tevin Jenkins still on the board. You had, I think it was, what's his name, Christian Darrisaw still on the board as well.
Yeah, he was available there too.
He was still on the board, and I don't know what it is especially with Mike Mayock. You would think, him being an expert analyst before he became the GM of the Raiders, you would think he'd make decent picks, and some of his picks have came to fruition, but especially last year with Clelin Ferrell. You had Josh Allen on the board at number 4 right there. You should have, and he was arguably a better prospect than Clelin Ferrell right there at number 4. And I guess a few of his picks have turned out all right. I guess, we haven't seen Henry Ruggs too much, really. And,
Josh Jacobs has turned out
pretty good.
Pretty well. Max Crosby blew up his rookie year.
Crosby was good. Renfro's been a pretty solid possession guy, little slot guy, but it's just overall, I feel like Mayock's done well in the middle rounds. When it comes to the first round picks, you did pick, like I said, Henry Ruggs. When it comes to him, he didn't get the showcase too much last year, but I'm pretty sure didn't he choose Ruggs over, was it Judy? Was it Jerry Judy?
Everybody.
Or CeeDee Lamb?
Ruggs was the first, he was the first receiver off the board.
So you pick him over CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's done better than Judy and Ruggs. And then obviously they forgot about Justin Jefferson as well. And Jalen Reagor's that's whatever. We forgot to mention Jalen Reagor. That's how bad that pick was last year. We forgot to mention him when we were talking about Devontae Smith, or at least I didn't mention him. I was gone through half of your.
I didn't mention him at all.
Your talk, Dad. That's crazy, man. That's freaking crazy. But yeah, it's just with the Raiders when it comes to the early round picks these last few years. Other than a Josh Jacobs, I can't really think of anyone else that's panned out in the Mike Mayock and John Gruden era. So, like you said, it kind of baffles me. I didn't think he was going to get picked this early, especially with the talent on the board. Maybe a second rounder, or maybe, more like a third rounder, second or third rounder. Just a day two guy in general. Caught me off guard, but, what else can you say? It's the Raiders. They're probably going to end up being the worst team in the AFC West, if I had to make a prediction on that. But I don't know. There's nothing really much else we can say about that.
Pretty much.
The Raiders. But that leads to the Dolphins' second pick, though. Solid pick. More of a
hometown boy.
More of a best player available pick in Jalen Phillips. They didn't really need that on their defense. That their defense is already solid. Who is on their D-line, though, actually, now that I think about it? I don't even know, dadgummit. I know they have Van Ginkel. He's
an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, he's a linebacker.
They got the nose tackle from Clemson.
Oh.
What, Jasper?
What was his name? Wilkins? Was it Christian Wilkins?
Yeah, Christian Wilkins, yep.
They got him. But that defense is solid. And, it doesn't... but I guess they're satisfied with who they have on offense. They did have the need. I guess they were satisfied with their O-line. Because they could have chose a Tevin Jenkins or someone like that here. But I guess they feel the need to, get after the QB, to get after the quarterback in terms of, especially in the AFC with all the QBs like Lamar and Patrick Mahomes and even a Justin Herbert and stuff. But within the division as well, a Cam Newton, being able to chase, and Josh Allen and now Zach Wilson. I guess they foresaw that. And foresaw if they were going to get somewhere in the AFC, then it needs a young, energetic pass rusher in order to chase all these young QBs down. And even a Tannehill, honestly. Tannehill's up there. He's never talked about, but he's done pretty well even without the Henry effect. He's done well on his own. But that's besides the point. I'm not going to go on a tangent about how Tannehill's better than people think he is, but it's a solid pick. Jalen Phillips, if not the top edge rusher in this class. His big knock was he did have 3 concussions that made him medically retire from UCLA, and he was able to come back to play at Miami. Great athlete, great sack maker, I guess if you want to call it that. You got to worry about the concussions a little bit, but it's overall a solid pick. He gets to stay in. He gets to stay in Miami, essentially, So
pretty much,
he gets to stay in South Beach. Great pick, and the Dolphins are building a solid little team down there to compete with the Bills, I think.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Phillips was my top edge rusher. He's the first edge rusher taken off the board. Quite a little slide of edge rushers taken afterwards. I know the last 3 picks in the first round were all edge rushers. Jasper has to use the bathroom. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's got to use the potty.
I got you.
But pretty much my take on, I mean, you explained pretty much every point I was going to say was the concussion. The ability, he would have been taken higher if his medical history was a little bit better. But at the same time, you can't really look at injuries in college and translated to the NFL, because Frank Gore is a perfect example of that. Tore his ACL twice in college and went on to be one of the most durable backs in NFL history.
Yeah.
Of course, edge rusher is a little bit different than running back, but I think the Dolphins went BPA, got a very good player. And I really don't want Jasper peeing on my floor, so I'm going to go ahead and let him out real quick. I would love to talk about Jamin Davis, though. I love Jamin Davis. But Jalen Phillips, really good player. I think the Dolphins got the best player they could have gotten. Besides maybe.
I'll go ahead and talk about Jamin or Jamin Davis real quick while you let him out.
Yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, y'all, I'm gonna take a little pause here. We got three viewers. That's nice for the 3 people watching. I guess maybe one counts as me. I don't know. It's the only way I can view my live chat right here. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but we're about halfway through, and if I'm gonna be honest with you, when the Washington football team, when they chose Jamin Davis out of Kentucky, I really had no clue who he was. Like, being for real, had no clue who he was at all, and I had to look up who he was because I had no clue at all. And he was on the big board. I know he was. Let's see, where was he at? He was. He was the 5th ranked linebacker. He was chosen over Owusu Koramoah, or Koramoah is still on the board, and Chaz Surratt's still on the board. And so I guess, I didn't do too much research into it, and I'd never heard of Jamin Davis before, so it kind of baffled me, especially with the backers that were still on the board at the time. Like a Koramoah and stuff like that. And so I honestly have no clue who he is, so I can't really say too much about it. I guess it would be a solid pick, because they do need a linebacker in the middle to supplement that D-line that's pretty nasty. That's basically an Alabama D-line with Jonathan Allen and then you have Chase Young, obviously.
Deron Payne.
And then Deron Payne and Montez Sweat. It's a solid defense. And
Matthew Ioannidis as well.
Yeah, and who's the white linebacker? Kelly Holcomb? Or no, that's the quarterback for Tennessee. Oh, my gosh.
His last name's Holcomb.
It's something Holcomb, and he's a decent linebacker, but I guess to fulfill that need, I guess this would make sense. And I guess Adam can go on, and I guess he knows him a little bit more than I do, because I had no clue, honestly, who he was. So I can't really say too much. But so I'll just let Adam talk about it. I guess it's a good pick. I don't know.
Well, in the beginning, pretty much Jamin Davis was a safety type linebacker, could play either, was a smaller, undersized linebacker at Kentucky to begin with, but he bulked up, got up to 234, which is pretty much a linebacker weight that you like. Anywhere between 230 and 250 is a solid, but really, the thing about Jamin Davis is, he got bigger, but he didn't sacrifice any speed, and his coverage is insane. He's a fantastic coverage linebacker because of how he played safety, kind of like a Brian Urlacher type who did play safety in college at New Mexico. But really, his draft stock skyrocketed after his pro day. Ran a 4.47 official 40-yard. Originally it was a 4.37 and a 4.4 flat, and that really got some people's attention. But I think it was mostly a Ron Rivera pick. Ron Rivera famously played linebacker for the 1985 Bears, and was a part of that 46 defense. And the guy just ultimately knows a linebacker when he sees one. Luke Kuechly is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. Do I think Jamin Davis is going to be like Luke Kuechly? Probably not. It's hard to replicate that type of production from a linebacker like that. But I think he can be used pretty much the same way. Ron likes to use a good amount of cover too, with that linebacker running that mid read, which is pretty much close to a middle third, like a safety would be, 15, 20 yards 10 to 15 down the field. And I think Jamin puts that perfectly because he's in coverage. He's a coverage linebacker. Could get better at the run game, stopping the run, stuff like that. But, his bread and butter is coverage by far.
He's got the speed to do so. He's the sideline linebacker. Closing speed's a great thing for him. To me, the way that Ron Rivera can teach linebackers and excel their potential really makes this pick a good pick, in my opinion. As I didn't think he was going to go this high. Originally he was like a J2 guy, middle second to late to early third. But I think that pro day and just overall scouts looking at his tape more since that pro day has excelled him into the first round. Overall, I think it's a very solid pick by Washington. Fills a hole at middle linebacker and makes that defense even scarier.
Interesting. Being a Tennessee fan, playing Kentucky last season, or the last couple seasons or few seasons, obviously, I never even had heard of them, honestly. But so my analysis there wasn't as well thought out. So maybe it was a bias being a Tennessee fan, but I don't know.
Yeah, he had a pick. He had a pick against Tennessee. He returned for a touchdown. It was like 70 yards.
Yeah, that's probably what I was probably more mad at Garantano than seeing who made the pick and everything.
He was the one who threw it.
He threw two pick sixes that day. I don't know. I was pissed that game, but shoot, I don't know. But what time did you say you had to go to work actually tomorrow morning? It's getting around close to 2 o'clock. So
9 a.m.
You said 9 a.m.
Right.
Did you want to
just go through like the last 12 picks, like 30 seconds each?
Yeah, I was gonna say if you wanted to speed it up a little bit, because I didn't want you to not be able to sleep.
Probably
and
should.
whatnot. All right, well, I guess we can go. We can just go through, I guess, a little bit more in depth with our picks, our team's picks. All right, well, we'll just go with Kadarius Toney, Giants. Why? This pick, like Kadarius Toney's good. He's a good player. Not a first-round talent, in my opinion. I think they could have chose someone like an Elijah Moore or even a Rondale Moore over Kadarius Toney at this point, and it just didn't match up well. Didn't really make any sense at all. You could have waited for him in the second round if you really wanted to. So, Kadarius Toney's good, quick. He's fast, but he's not like Jalen Waddle fast or anything like that, or an Elijah Moore fast. He's more shifty, quick. Bubble screen type action, can take a short ball and take it the distance in terms of messing around with defenders and whatnot. But I mean, it could turn out to be a solid pick, but I think he just chose early and chose a little too early, especially trading back like that with the Bears, and then I don't know. You could have chose someone different there, I think, in my opinion, but that's just my thoughts on that. So.
The only thing I know about him is he's very versatile, can play running back, has that elusiveness with him, and besides that, I really don't know much about him, to be honest.
He's pretty solid, but they could have waited. Moving on to the Colts, I hated this pick as a Titans fan because it was a solid pick. Kwity Paye was the top available D lineman. Or one of the top available pass rushers in general, actually, at that point. And I was afraid that the Colts are low. Like, honestly, if I'm being unbiased, they're building a solid team right now. And Chris Ballard's a great general manager. Not as good as John Robinson, I think. I'm biased, but he's building a solid team down there, and he makes the right picks. He did get Darius Leonard a few years back in the second round, so he has an eye for talent. And my big fear is, this guy is a great run stuffer, and one of his dinks was developing pass rush skills, and so I'm not too worried in the pass rush game, but, it helps him that they have DeForest Buckner on the field as well, but I think his role will be to fill Danico Autry's position on the D-line, who came to the Titans. Hopefully he wrecks some havoc for us, but I think that'll be Kwity Paye's role with the Colts. Hopefully it's a good pick, and I think he'll be good, just not against the Titans, hopefully. Let's just hope that don't happen, but solid pick for the Colts. It's going to be down between us and the Colts, or Titans and the Colts in the AFC South.
And I'll just highlight his pass rushing moves. I mean, literally, he has one move, which is a great move. His cross chop, and that's pretty much all he has. It's very famous by guys like Tamba Ali and Joey Bosa, but after that, he's got nothing. So definitely has to develop that a little bit better. He's a really good athlete, really fast. It's going to be on probably on the same side, probably the outside edge of DeForest Buckner. So that's going to really. But besides that, I think he's a developmental player who could start right now. But I mean, he has a chance to be pretty good on that defensive line.
For sure. Sadly though, but we're getting to the good team now. In the Titans, we had a bunch of options at this place. A bunch of options. Me and my buddy Noah, we were streaming during this. We had no clue who we'd pick, and we were leading up to this pick. We were just kept going over and over and over it. We could have chose Elijah Moore. That was the consensus in some mock drafts, and even insider information per se was saying that we were locked in on Elijah Moore. You could trade back. We were doing blah 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 and all this, and it wasn't up until recently, the last few weeks, that Farley was falling back in the draft due to his back surgery that he had on the 23rd. And, he kept falling back. The Cowboys passed up on him. That was surprising to me at the time. And, the Titans do have a need. They have a need at receiver and corner was my top two. Also edge rusher. And, Kwity Paye or Pye or whatever his name is, and Jalen Phillips were off the board. And we had a lot of options here. A lot of options. And ultimately, I think we made the right choice. We made the right choice in Caleb Farley. You can't pass up a talent like that at a position of need when your top two corners, Malcolm Butler, great veteran presence, and Adoree Jackson are off the team. You need help there. You need to help Christian Fulton out. Janoris Jenkins is a good ball hawk, a good veteran presence, but he's not capable of being probably your number two. He's not gonna be like that. And with Farley's talent and him falling back, this just reminds me, it's a solid pick. I was going wild over this pick. It's amazing and I love it. Hopefully his back issues do heal. I think it may have been overblown a little bit, but like I was saying, it puts me in that position of where I think back to 2 years ago in Nashville at the draft. Jeffrey Simmons had torn his ACL in February of that year. And he fell back from being a possible top 5 pick, likely top 10 pick, fell back to 19, and the Titans picked him at 19, and now he's our best D lineman, and probably one of the best interior D linemen in the AFC and even in the league, if you want to put it at that. He don't put up the sack numbers. He's one of the best run stuffers in the league, and he's certainly paid off. And that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm seeing with Caleb Farley right here. The Titans picking him right here at 22 and him falling back due to an injury. It was a deadlifting injury, too, is what it was. He's had 2 back surgeries, but I think it's overblown a little bit. You got to err on the side of caution with a back injury. But, if Jeffrey Simmons, he tore his ACL and he came back just fine in the middle of that next season, which was his rookie season, played really well last year. I think it's a solid pick. I was excited. Arguably, you could have put him as the top corner in the draft class, and I think he's a day one starter. If his back issues don't linger, he could be a top corner in this league for sure.
I agree with you for that. I mean, if he didn't have any back issues at all, he probably would be the top corner in this class. Great value pick for the Titans. Obviously, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel are not afraid to take a risk on a player who's had injuries recently, and kind of goes back to the Frank Gore analysis or the metaphor per se, is you can't really judge a player based off of their injuries. Caleb Farley is off corner, good makeup speed. Honestly, if you see him getting beat deep and the quarterback throws the ball in that direction, don't freak out, because the guy's get back speed is insane, like world class. Probably the best in the draft, and could
I mean, he'll get a lot of interceptions that way because quarterbacks will be like, oh, he's a rookie corner. Let's test him a little bit. Guy's a big guy. Like I said, great off corner. He's not going to be press. He's not going to be a press guy. He's going to be a little bit more off, which might switch the defensive scheme of the Titans a little bit. But basically, great value pick, really high on the guy. And that's pretty much all I really have to say about him. He's just, great makeup speed, great value pick, and a good pick for the Titans.
Yeah, it was a BPA at a position, and if any team does that, honestly, it's perfect. And we're going to need corners in the AFC, and not even necessarily in the South anymore, in the AFC South, but in the AFC, we'll definitely need it. But yeah, that leads to me being a Titans fan. Obviously, I love the pick. It leads to the next one was the Vikings picking Christian Darrisaw. I didn't know, I don't know too much about the Vikings and their O-line. Obviously, they do have Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook, if you bring another guy like Christian Darrisaw onto the field in the trenches, one of the top tackles in the tackle prospects in this draft class, that'll be able to open up lanes for him, and even, I guess you could say, protect Kirk Cousins as well when you have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and what's the guy's name? Played for Alabama, the tight end. Ish Smith? Is that his name? Or am I...
Irv Smith.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Because Kyle Rudolph's not on the team anymore.
No.
But, it's a solid pick. I mean, I guess. I don't know too much about their O-line situation in Minnesota. But being able to block for a franchise running back in... Dalvin Cook, and not really a franchise QB in my opinion, Kirk Cousins, but keeping him upright will be good because Cousins is accurate in the short ball. He's just not that game breaker, and he won't lead you far into the playoffs. He won't take the risks really, but being able to keep him upright, maybe he will take those risks if he's able to stick in the pocket a little longer. But he's just more of a short throw quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. Highly accurate. Just doesn't take the risks or anything, but maybe he'll do that with more protection in the pocket. But not really too much else I can say on Christian Darrisaw, but I'd say it's a solid pick for the Vikings.
See, Darrisaw, I don't really know a whole lot about him. Obviously, came out of Virginia Tech. It's just a few teams saw him mostly as a guard, but for the most part, he's a tackle. Vikings' biggest need on offense is offensive line, so they address the need. As far as how well he'll do, I have no clue. I have no clue how well he'll do. As a Packers fan, I could care less about the Vikings. So, seeing them not take a sexy pick is nice for me. But it is what it is. Nothing really I can say about that. Might as well move on to Najee at this point.
Yeah, for sure, because that's a sexy pick, one, and two, it's a great pick. You lose James Conner in the offseason to the Cardinals, and you have an aging QB, and probably his last year. We said this year too, but probably his last year in Ben Roethlisberger, and Juju's coming back, and you still have Chase Claypool. Who else am I thinking? Deontay Johnson, you still have him as well. And so you still have Ben Roethlisberger. And Najee Harris is dynamic, man. He's really, really, really dynamic. As proven as what he did last year at Alabama. He kind of got backshadowed by Devontae Smith and even Mac Jones a little bit in terms of the Heisman race. But Najee Harris was a wrecking ball at Alabama last year. And he fits that same mold that James Conner was in a sense, where he's a rough dude. He's a rough dude who can fight between the tackles, but he's more nifty, more nimble and nifty than James Conner ever was. And he could definitely fit this offense, the short throw open offense, I guess you could say, with is Todd Haley's offense. I think he's still the coordinator, right? Todd Haley? Is he not?
I think so.
Okay. But anyways, the offense is more like a short range type deal, and Ben Roethlisberger's a veteran, and he'll know what plays to run in certain situations, and Najee Harris can open up that offense a little bit more than even James Conner. He won't bring it back to the Le'Veon Bell days for sure, but he'll open it up more than James Conner. Has more explosiveness, can catch out of the backfield, and cut up field, I guess, a little bit better than Conner, because Conner was a good receiving threat. He just wasn't as quick off the break and whatnot to break off defenders. Unless there was no defender there, then he was a great receiver. But there's not really much else I can say. It's a solid pick, position of need. He was the top running back available. And I think it's good for the Steelers to be able to run against teams like the Ravens, wear them down. In your own division, the Ravens, the Browns, to be able to run down their throats and open up the pass offense, because you can't just pass all the time. That's what happened against the Browns, and we saw what happened. So,
I've never been a big guy for taking running backs in the first round. Running backs have the shortest shelf life when it comes to NFL positions. They're also a dime a dozen. Najee Harris is a little bit better, a little bit different, and you could say Travis Etienne is the same way. But pretty much, Steelers want to get back to what they're known for, which is ground and pound, which Najee can do. And with an aging Ben Roethlisberger, this kind of helps out him, relieves the stress off of him, so they can actually have a run game that can take the pressure off. And Najee can definitely do that. David DeCastro is a great puller, so I see a lot of power, a lot of gap scheme type runs with Najee, and he's just an overall playmaker. I'm not mad at the pick at all at 24. He'll be a great playmaker. Besides that, I'm not a big fan of a running back going 24th overall or 25th overall. And I'll probably group these guys together. Travis Etienne can split out wide and catch the football. He wasn't really known as a pass catcher until last year. But overall, I'm, not the biggest fan of their pick selection. I knew they would be high. Didn't think they would go in the first round. The second round has really turned into the running back round in the NFL. But yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, if you want a guy, go get him. Najee and Travis will be playmakers for a couple years. Injuries regarding it, and who knows? Maybe Najee Harris will turn into the next Frank Gore and play for 16 years.
I agree. I guess moving on with Travis Etienne, it's a good pick, but it's kind of baffling too when you had James Robinson, undrafted free agent running back, play really well for you last year. So I guess it makes sense to pair him with his college quarterback and Trevor Lawrence. That's the only question I had is you had James Robinson there already, so why would you pick Etienne unless you think it was a fluke year? I guess as a rookie, I don't know. I guess it's still a great pick either way. It's another weapon on offense, but I guess you may have had a bigger need, especially being on the Jaguars. That whole defense needs fixing. Some of the O-line needs fixing. Outside of Andrew Norwell, and Cam. I don't even know if Cam Robinson still plays, but outside of them two, it's just like there's more positions in need, and you chose a position that you're already well established at with James Robinson. But the upside is, he's another weapon, and that's what Trevor Lawrence needs. But also, Trevor Lawrence needs an O-line, and he also needs a defense to help him out if in his growing pains. But that's pretty. And they found out about that when they went up against the Chiefs. And wait, no, yeah, it was the Chiefs. I'm stupid. Yeah, and they were close to winning when I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield went out of the game. Was it Baker Mayfield? No, I'm thinking of Patrick Mahomes. I'm getting everything mixed up. Oh my gosh. Okay, so anyways, so they found that out pretty roughly, that you need someone to keep up with the Chiefs and even the Bills and even the Steelers. They had lost the Steelers earlier in that season, and they eventually blew them out in the postseason. But it's a solid pick because you got to keep up with that. And I think it's they're building a good team there if Baker can keep it up and not be an idiot. So
I'll be 100% honest. I have no clue about Greg Newsom.
I didn't either.
No idea.
Before this draft.
No idea. I mean, Browns got their guy. They got their guy. I have no clue what type of player Greg Newsom is. Pretty much it at that point.
He went to. Well, he did go to Northwestern, but according to the big board on Bleacher Report, he was ranked ahead of actually Caleb Farley. He was the 23rd overall player. He was behind Surtain and Horn, but he was ahead of Farley and Asante Samuel. So he was pretty good, but I had first heard of him back in it was a mock draft I was looking at actually last night, the night before the draft, and it was pretty interesting. I was like, because they mocked him to the Titans, and I'm like, never heard of him. And I looked him up, and I guess he had a great grade, and he was getting comparisons to on NFL.com to Darius Slay, so I guess he's pretty good. It's a solid pick. And then 27, I'm sure this kind of made you mad a little bit.
I was not happy.
It was the Rashad Bateman pick, and it's for the Ravens. It's a great pick. You line him up outside. It's a pass catcher for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson needs as many pass catchers as he can get. Because really all he has is Mark Andrews consistently reliable, a consistently reliable target in Mark Andrews. Hollywood Brown's he can be a game breaker, but he's just too inconsistent at this point. And so he's really never had that strong receiver to be able to count on. And will Bateman be that? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe not his rookie year or early on in the year. But it's another weapon that was added, that needed to be added. Willie Snead's getting a little old. He's still reliable, but he's not a game breaker. You can cover him pretty well. So it's a good pick for the Ravens, I think. Gives Lamar another weapon.
Rashad Bateman's a big body. Gives Lamar a big catch radius that he can turn plays into, and also has pretty deceptive speed. I was high on Rashad Bateman. I liked him quite a bit, which is quite shocking for me because he's a Minnesota player. But at the same time, ideally he was who I wanted the Packers to get. Was pretty much the last receiver with a first round grade, as Jasper makes his return. Hi, bud. But pretty much it's who I wanted. Big body receiver would have worked well with the Packers, but he gives Lamar Jackson a big body to throw to, and he can go up and grab some things. Great jump ball receiver. Nice red zone threat as well. Ultimately, who I wanted, but didn't turn out that way.
And he came to the Titans too. He was one of the ones that they were predicting to go to the Titans, but him and Elijah Moore. But goes to the Ravens, our bitter rivals. Titans' bitter rivals should have beat them last year in the playoffs if Arthur Smith wouldn't have choked the game away, and even Vrabel too. But that's besides the point. This next pick was, I guess, kind of confusing. I'd never heard of him before, and he was really ranked very low on the big board, like third, fourth round. That's where they put him on the overall list, and it was Peyton Turner. And I guess I wouldn't be too thrilled if I was a Saints fan. I wouldn't be too thrilled with that pick. I guess you're really taking over Trey Hendrickson's spot. He left that void, behind. I guess he more of a backup or situational or rotational role, I guess is a better term, for Trey Hendrickson, because Marcus Davenport's still a little raw, and they still need that rotation behind. Even a Cam Jordan will need his breaks, and Davenport, like I said, still a little raw, and I guess they might use him for that. But even our buddy Jackson had no clue why this was the pick when they did need a corner still. But I don't know. I guess he's a great run stuffer is what I heard. But other than that, I have no clue really.
I have no clue who he is. They talk about corner. and Asante Samuel Jr. I just don't think that Asante Samuel Jr. fits what the Saints want to do defensively, and that's why they didn't ultimately pick him. Besides that, I have no clue who Peyton Turner is. No idea.
Me neither. But I guess I'll let you lead off with this, Adam. Eric Stokes corner. I'm just gonna. I guess I'll just go with. I'll just do my little interpretation. I guess because it's not too big. Now Eric Stokes is a great. I think is a solid corner. Solid corner. But I think like Adam will probably about to say. I think the Packers needed more of a receiver, and Elijah Moore could have been that guy, that slot guy, or that next weapon, that other weapon to take away some coverage from Devontae Adams. I guess he replaces Kevin King in a sense. Kevin King was arguably lost the championship game for him, being garbage and whatnot. So I think it's a solid pick, but you also had a more urgent need, especially after the news that came out today with Rodgers. So I guess I'll let you go on it, Adam, so you can talk a little bit about it. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. Obviously, well, Stokes will be fine. He as some people say, Stokes go fast. Fast guy. He can cover, make good reads, can pick off balls, does everything we need as a corner. But the biggest thing for me is we needed a wide receiver in the first round to prove to Aaron Rodgers that we want him to stay. This was Gutekunst's last chance to make a statement to Rodgers like, hey, we want you here. We're the only team in the league that did not make a free agency acquisition. And sure, we had the cap that wasn't helping us out very much. But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do in order to get your quarterback happy. Rodgers sees what teams are doing around the league, the Saints especially, with what they did with Drew Brees. And we did none of that for him at all. And this just rubs salt in the wound. And that's what I'm ultimately mad at more than the fact that we chose a corner, was the fact that we have made no statement at all that we want Aaron Rodgers to be a Green Bay Packer for the rest of his career. And I'm not mad at him. I don't blame him. I mean, he's dealt with us for 15 years of not getting what he deserves as far as talent goes. We've drafted 3 offensive players in the first round since Aaron Rodgers has been our starting quarterback. 2 have been offensive tackles, and another one was another quarterback. He's only thrown 1 touchdown pass to a first-round player, and that was Mercedes Lewis, 12 years into his career. I'm disappointed with the pick, for sure. I thought Elijah Moore was our guy, especially as he fell. Okay, Titans didn't take him. I thought the Jaguars were going to take him. Jaguars didn't take him. They thought there was a chance the Browns would take him. Browns didn't take him. And then whenever the Ravens took Rashad Bateman, I was like, okay, we got Elijah Moore. And whenever I heard Eric Stokes, I literally just sat there and just stared at the wall. I was like, just trying to piece together the fact that either Gutekunst has a plan, which I hope he does. I hope he has a plan. I hope we get a wide receiver the next two rounds. But if we don't pick a receiver in the next 2 rounds, we can kiss Aaron Rodgers goodbye. Because why would he stay? Why would he stay? There's no reason why he would stay. I think Stokes will be a good player for us. I think he'll be a good complementary pick to Jair Alexander. But we got to get an offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Sure, we have Devontae Adams. Sure, Aaron Jones is coming back. MBS is looking good in the offseason, but we got to add another piece because Alan Lazard is good. He has certain sets made for him, but we really need a slot receiver because literally all of our receivers are like 6'2" and taller. We need somebody shifty. We need somebody fast. We can't bring back most of the team that didn't get us to the Super Bowl and expect us to get a Super Bowl out of it. We got to change something. And sure, we get Devin Funchess back, but he just adds more to the Green Bay towers of wide receivers. We don't have a shifty guy. We don't have a guy who can, like a Randall Cobb, who can be that slot receiver, can be in the backfield sometimes, and I'm not happy with the pick. It's not Eric Stokes' fault at any standard, as it shouldn't be, but this will really, really dampen the news with Aaron Rodgers, because if for the most part, I thought he was using it as leverage so we were not stupid in the draft, and frankly, we're stupid in the draft right now. Especially if our second round pick doesn't work out and all the receivers are gone. He's gone. Period. He's gone. And he breaks my heart a little bit. But Eric Stokes will be a good player for us, but I don't think he's worth losing our franchise over. So that's the best I could explain it. As far as the next three guys, I have no idea. Joe Tryon, I have no clue. Greg Rousseau is going to be a good player. Edge rusher out of Miami, good compliment for with Jalen Phillips. But
Jalen Phillips is on the Dolphins.
That's what I meant. He went to Miami too.
Oh, he was.
Rousseau went to Miami as well.
My bad.
Oh no, you're good. The Bills get a good edge rusher, compliments AJ Espinoza, who they drafted last year in the second round, I believe, or it was a couple years ago. I don't know. But Jason Owe, I don't even know how you say it right, but I have no clue about Jason at all. What boggles my mind more than anything is the fact that Owusu Kawamura is still on the board. Tevin Jenkins still on the board. Because Owusu Kawamura is literally an Isaiah Simmons. He's a poor man's Isaiah Simmons, because literally Notre Dame stayed in 4-3 the entire time because Owusu Kawamura could do whatever he wanted. Could line up over a tight end, could cover a slot receiver, could force the run. It just boggles my mind. But as far as the last three edge rushers, I have no clue, and that's probably just me being tired, but I have no clue about it.
Yeah, I feel that. I guess I'll have the same. Rousseau, the Bills are building something down, or I guess up in Buffalo. Building a solid defense, just a solid team in general. Like you said, he'll compliment Epineza and Ed Oliver pretty well, and even is that his name? Tremaine Edmonds, the middle linebacker. And then, they have Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White, and even Josh Norman and Micah Hyde, and that defense is solid, and they're building something. And Rousseau's, he's a little raw. He sat out last season, so he could have been picked higher, I think, if he played last season, honestly, but solid pick there. Jason Owe, the only thing I know about him is he killed at the combine, and I guess that's why he was picked in the first round, is his stock jumped up because of his combine. Super athletic linebacker, or I think that's what the Ravens might use him as, is that linebacker. Other than that, I really don't know too much about him. And then Joe Tryon, I had never heard of him, but I guess at Washington he's a great pass rushing specialist, I guess, based on the highlights I saw that ESPN was showing. But other than that, I really have no clue. But, the Bucks. The Bucks are the Bucks. They retained everyone. They're going to be a threat next year, I think. But I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl again. Knock on wood, but, They're pretty much built, but I echo your sentiments as in the whole how is Owusu Koromoa still on the board? How's Tevin Jenkins still on the board? I'm looking at it now. Even Davion Nixon from Iowa, he was ranked number 11 in the big board. Landon Dickerson was ranked number 8, O-lineman from Alabama. Trevin Moehrig, I guess teams haven't had a need for safety. He's still on the board. Elijah Moore still on the board as well. That's really, and Christian Barmore, the D lineman, or Barmore, whatever his name is, and even Terrace Marshall and Rondell Moore, they're still, and Aziz Ojulari and Joseph Osai and Rashad Weaver and those guys that I'm reading right now. They're early second round picks, but they could have easily been picked in the first. But other than that, that's pretty much it for me. I enjoyed the draft. It was really fun streaming with my buddy Noah earlier. If you haven't watched, if you want to watch, it's 4.5 hours. If y'all want to watch that,
there you go.
It'll help me out a little bit. At least like the video, and I'll be really appreciative. But yeah, that was fun. Titans, my team did amazing, with their one pick, obviously. There was a few surprises overall. I think a lot of teams really made the right choice with what they needed. But yeah, other than that, I'm ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to sleep in tomorrow, get some homework done, probably watch day 2, round 2 and 3. See what my Titans do. We have 3 picks tomorrow, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see who we get in the second round, and then 2 picks in the third round. So that's really my closing statement, I guess. Who knows?
If I have one, I pretty much just have one player I want to highlight for tomorrow. He might even get picked in the 4th round, but Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri, I absolutely love. Packers don't need a safety, but whoever gets Tyree Gillespie is going to be they're going to get a stud out of him. He's the only player in the SEC who has a pass deflection against Kyle Pitts and Devontae Smith. Is it it's Devontae Smith, right? Yeah. Yep. Devontae Smith. As well as he stopped Najee Harris on the goal line twice. Guy has crazy, closing speed. Could be a middle fielder for a team. I just think whoever gets him is going to get a great steal. And overall, I absolutely love Tyree Gillespie. And that's just somebody I would look forward to looking to see who grabs him day 2, even early day 3.
Interesting. I'll be on the lookout for that. But you do have work in the morning. I didn't think it'd last this long, but I wanted to.
Right.
You asked if I wanted to do this, and I had pretty much nothing. I don't have anything going on tomorrow morning, so I was down to do it. Didn't think it'd last this long, but I'm glad we did it. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
We've been ranging between 3 and 5 years. That was better than the stream before.
Right.
So we're sitting at 4. When I think we peaked out at 5 or 6, which is pretty nice. Right. For getting, for not having a retained audience, really. So that was fun. Today was a pretty productive day in general, and then just having fun since 6 o'clock. Really been having fun since then. So yeah, thank you for coming on, Adam. I hope you and Jasper get a good sleep.
Yeah,
especially before work.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you want to hop on,
we're about to pass out.
Yeah, if you want to hop on some other time, just let me know. I'll probably be able to watch the draft tomorrow. So yeah, just let me know. You let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have a fan.
I get off at 6 tomorrow, so.
Okay. I don't have a fan base or anything, so I can't say, oh, well, what do y'all want? But obviously with you can text me or just text the group chat, and we can see what's going on tomorrow. So, and if you wanted to hop on, or just for anything, I know you wanted to do an X and O's with the Vols offense. I don't know. That's up to you. But
Yeah, I don't care.
But yeah,
Depends
I'm down for whatever, man. I'm not
Just
gonna be
depends.
working.
Pretty much depends on my free time.
Yeah, I'm not working for the next few weeks, so that's up to you. That's totally up to you and even
Sounds
Jackson
good.
or Ryan. So, but I'll let you go, man. Thanks for coming on once again. You sleep tight, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, man. Love you, bro. You have a good
Of
one.
course. Thanks for having me. Oh, trust me. Yeah, no worries. Issues about that.
All right, good night, man.
Hey, love you too, man. You have a good one.
Video call. Let's see. Let me exit full screen. All right. That pretty much does it. You can't see my picture. Hold on 1 second. Let me add something. I don't know why it's not going to show the webcam right now. I really don't. I don't know why y'all ain't seeing this, but hey, AFO is out. God bless y'all. Whoops. I thought it would be God bless y'all. In stream. There we go.